Testing, testing.
So if you look at the back of the screen, if you look, watch the screen that looks like it's green. If your number is lit up red or green, what do you do? It didn't on the last set, but if you look at it, it just says number and then the
Everyone, if we could just find our seats. We're just about at a quorum. We're just a little shy. But in the meantime, we have troops 4 and 11 here. So we're going to, if we can find our seats, give them a chance to do so now. And then we'll let them down in just a minute once everyone's cleared off. Okay, thank you very much.
Color guard, attention. Audience, please rise, and please remove any head coverings. And for those not in uniform, please place your right hand over your heart. Color guard, advance. Color guard, cross the colors. Scout salute. Will you please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. 2. Color guard, will you please post the flag of the United States of America? Color guard, will you please post the flag of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts? Color guard, honor your colors. 2. Color guard dismissed. Audience, you may be seated.
Thank you, Hopkins Scout Troop and 4 and 11 for your assistance with presenting the colors. At this time, we have a quorum, so I will call the May 5th, 2025 annual town meeting to order. As the moderator is unable to preside over this meeting, and the deputies were not able to take over, I, as the town clerk, shall serve as the acting presiding officer of the meeting. Many of you are familiar faces that have joined us for many years. Many of you are joining us for the first time. Town meeting is the legislative body that keeps Hopkinton moving forward, but it is more than just any legislature. It's a gathering of neighbors with the shared aim of chartering the path forward for our community. We may not all agree on what the path is, but together we'll sharpen our understanding of the issues that face our town, and we will come out of this all stronger for it. Please remember, all of the people in this room sharing concerns and opinions tonight are your neighbors, and they will continue to be your neighbors once we adjourn. Be civil and respectful, keep an open mind so that we can find solutions together that benefit our town and all those that live here. If everyone would be so kind to join me for a moment of silence to recognize and remember those residents, volunteers, and employees who've passed away since our last annual town meeting. I'd personally like to call out specifically B. McMullen, who's interred today, and she just passed away last week. She's a longtime resident and attendee of town meeting, and has had plenty influence on where this community has gotten to so far. If we could please just join in a quick moment of silence. Thank you. Those individuals are the ones that helped us build this town into what it is today, and hopefully we may also serve as worthy stewards for our community as we take up the business of the evening. I'll now read the rules of the hall. No person shall speak unless recognized by the moderator. To be recognized, someone will rise to one of the microphones to either my left or right, and then they will be recognized in order of which they come. Speakers will be given 2 minutes, as will show on the clock over there, to make their case. The timer will run, and I'll inform the speaker that their time has expired. When a speaker's time has expired, I will thank them, and then their microphone will cut, and we'll go to the next person. Planned presenters have been given 5 minutes for their presentations. Anyone that has not further discussed their presentations with me ahead of time will have 2 minutes, just as anyone else, to speak their case on an article. Please stay civil, keeping your comments directed to the moderator and avoiding personal statements to ensure that we're discussing the issues rather than the people. Debate between attendees will be considered out of order. Be respectful of other speakers with opposing viewpoints. Please no clapping, booing, or cheering so that we can respect everybody's viewpoint and not intimidate others to get up or feel like their vote or their voice is not heard. We ask only that you present arguments that have not already been made so that we can keep the whole thing moving. We'll prioritize new speakers before someone is recognized for a second time on the topic, and per the bylaw, we won't recognize anyone for over 10 minutes for an article. No speaker who has risen to comment on an article may also make a motion unless they're recognized again. Any motion to amend an article that has not already been submitted should be submitted in writing to the amendment desk at the back of the room here before they come to the microphone to make the motion so that we can have it up on the screen. When leaving the hall, for any reason, please try to remain quiet and do so calmly so that we don't disturb the rest of the business and we can continue as you come in or out. Please be aware that offending the rules and violation thereof could result in being removed from the hall. Unless otherwise directed, any votes that will be done by count will be done through the Meridia vote clicker system. So if we want to just do a test of your remotes now just to make sure that they are working, you'll see that each of these has quite a few buttons on it, but the only ones that we're going to be looking at are the yes, no's, so the 1A and the 2B, the red and green. Whenever a vote comes up that is a yes vote that you'd like to make for it, you can press the green button, and you should see on your screen, the little one on the device, you'll see a 1 and an OK if you press yes. And that means that you have a yes vote that has been received. And if you press the other button, even before the polls close, you can change your vote. So keep in mind, if you realize you pressed the wrong button and the poll is still open, you can change it then. And you should see it change to another OK and tell you that that has been logged. As I will be presiding over the meeting, I will ask my Assistant Town Clerk, William Lee, to record the minutes. I will now have Mr. Lee read the call and return of the warrant.
Greetings to the constables of the town of Hopkinton. In the name of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, you are hereby required to notify and warn all inhabitants of the town of Hopkinton qualified to vote in elections and in town affairs of the annual town meeting warrant this day, Monday, May 5th, 2025. Hereof, and fail not, and make the due return of this warrant with your doings thereon to the clerk of said town of Hopkinton at the time and place aforesaid. Given under our hands this 5th day of May, 2025.
Thank you, Will. At this time, I'll recognize any procedural motions. I know that Mr. Clark has one on behalf of the Select Board. Mr. Clark, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I move to take Article 37 out of order and consider it immediately following Article 26. The reason for this is both articles pertain to the center school reuse, so we thought it was best to get them right after one another, same presentation, and hopefully save us all some time.
Thank you. Is there any comment, question? Seeing none, I'm just going to go try out a voice vote. This just needs a simple majority. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? It's unanimous and so carries. And with that, we're going to move on to our consent agenda. To streamline the annual town meeting, we'll use the consent agenda. The consent agenda allows a single vote to pass a group of non-controversial items, that is, articles on which all parties agree. Work on some of the articles may be incomplete, and the sponsors ask for a vote of no action in those cases. For other articles, the action is non-controversial or a formality, and we foresee no debate. I'm going to read the procedure, and then what I will do is I will read out the individual articles individually so we can decide if any of those need to be pulled. First, after the motion is made, as the moderator, I will call out the numbers of the consent agenda articles individually. Any voter who would like to ask a question about one of the articles or wishes to debate one of the articles should step up to the microphone and say the word "hold" when the moderator reads the article number. Next, the moderator will inquire whether the request is a question or debate. Suppose the purpose of the request is to ask a question. In that case, I will attempt to see if we can obtain a satisfactory answer and not have to pull it out for discussion. However, suppose the hold is for debate. In the case, the article will be removed from the consent agenda and restored to its original place on the warrant. Let's hope the voters will remove articles from the consent agenda only in cases of genuine concern. After removing debatable articles on the consent agenda, I will request a motion to take the requested actions on the remaining articles on the consent agenda. So, I move that the town take action by unanimous consent on the articles listed on the consent agenda as proposed in the consent agenda handout. Article 1, acceptance of town reports. Article 2, FY 2025 supplemental appropriations and transfers. Article 6, FY 26 revolving fund spending limits. Article 7, PEG access and cable related funding. Article 8, Chapter 90 highway funds. Article 9, transfer to the other post-employment benefits liability trust fund. Article 10, transfer to the general stabilization fund. Article 25, community preservation funds. Article 35, accept a gift of land, 0 John Matthew Road. Article 36, accept a gift of land, 69 Franklin Road. Article 38, temporary easement at 32 Chestnut Street for sidewalk construction. And Article 41, accept prudent investment rule. Okay, that's exactly what I like to see, whole thing going through. So we are going to go ahead and we're going to just try to do a voice vote for it, move on to the next article. So with that, all those in favor of approving the items here by consent, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? It's unanimous and so carries. And with that, we're going to start off on Article 3, please. And do we have a recommendation from the Select Board and Appropriation Committee on this? Yeah, so go ahead, Mike, if you want to make the motion.
Article 3, unpaid bills from prior fiscal years. We move the motion as printed in the warrant articles and motions document.
Okay, and then, Mike, do you have a recommendation from the committee?
Appropriation Committee recommends this article.
And the Select Board have a recommendation? Thank you. Anyone have any questions, comments? Seeing none, this does require a 4/5 majority, so I'm going to make, because we don't have anyone talking to it, I'm going to make an attempt for a voice vote. If we get a unanimous vote, we can move forward. Otherwise, we're going to account. All those in favor of approving this article, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? And it's unanimous and so carries. And at this time, I'm going to have Zach Koson come up and serve as deputy to take on Article 4, set salary of elected officials.
Article 4, set salary of elected officials. Does the Appropriations Committee have a motion?
Yes. Article 4, set salary of elected officials. We move the motion as printed in the warrant articles and motions document. Essentially, what this article is doing, that elected officials who are paid must be approved at town meeting for their new salary. And this salary for the town clerk goes to $88,887. It's a 3.5 increase above last year's salary level.
Doesn't look like we have any discussion, so we can do this as a voice vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Zach. We'll see you again soon. So now on to Article 5, the FY 2026 operating budget, the fun stuff. So if we want to go ahead and start with motion from appropriations.
Article 5, fiscal year 2026 operating budget. We move the motion as printed in the warrant articles and motions document.
And then do you also have a recommendation?
Appropriation Committee recommends approval.
Does the Select Board have a recommendation?
Recommends approval.
Okay, and now, Mike, do you want to start us off with a presentation on the budget, and then we'll move over to the school department side?
Yes, thank you. Next slide. Next slide. Can you hear me? Good evening, Mr. Moderator and citizens of Hopkinton. The Appropriation Committee is pleased to present the fiscal year 2026 budget for your consideration. Article 5 covers general municipal operations, including the schools, town departments, and debt payments on general town projects. It also authorizes the expenditure of user fees that will be raised in the water and sewer enterprises, and it would authorize the administrative expenses and debt payments to support the dedicated Community Preservation Fund. New capital articles that will be proposed for funding from existing resources are covered in later articles. Slide 3. In preparation for today's annual meeting, the Appropriation Committee has developed a comprehensive report covering the budget and financial articles, with a lot of support from town departments as well as boards, committees, and commissions. That report has been posted online and is provided in your packet today. One of the town's core financial principles is to budget in a cautious and prudent way, which means taking a pessimistic view of potential revenue coming in while also trying to make sure that budgets are able to absorb inflationary cost increases, which are difficult to predict in periods of higher inflation. The review process is paid close attention to and carefully evaluated. The targeted service level increases that have been included in this budget, which are limited to the Hopkinton Public Schools. Through a combination of cost containment and some good news on estimated revenues, the proposal before today's town meeting, if approved, will deliver a balanced budget, one that sustains fiscal year 2025 service levels across departments, that pays for contractual and other inflationary cost increases, and provides for schools to deal with growing enrollment. I mentioned that this budget proposal contains some targeted service level increases. Specifically, the proposed budget provides the Hopkinton Public Schools with a $3.63 million funding increase, not including a substantial increase in school and town staff benefits costs. The school budget will also include an additional $1.046 million in Article 12 to support tuition for special education students who are placed in programs outside the community. The school department will address this and other increases during the discussion of this article. In other departments, increases supported the sustainment of fiscal year 2025 level services. The tax impact of the proposed budget on existing homeowners will be 6.13%. This is 2.29% for Prop 2.5 levy and 3.34% excluded debt, mostly from the new Charleswood School and Hopkins addition that was approved at previous town meetings. This year, there are no new capital articles that rely on funding through debt. We will only utilize the town's free cash and use of funds that were previously approved but unexpended from other capital projects. The total impact would add $799 on the existing $13,050 tax bill for Hopkinton's average residents, which now has an assessed value of $918,700. Slide 4. The operating budget presented today was developed through a very public and very collaborative process, one that involved contributions from dozens of citizen volunteers, collaboration with the town's professional staff, and many opportunities for public comment and involvement. The budget does a good job of addressing pressing needs within existing constraints. There was a major emphasis to control spending in order to rein in a large budget imbalance early in the process. The messaging included no new debt to fund capital articles. I also want to very briefly discuss the longer-term horizon for the operating budget. Considering the general fund pay-as-you-go capital proposals, enterprise funds, and community preservation, budgeted spending is $138 million for our growing town in the coming year. Even recent approvals of the new Charleswood and Hopkins School addition, current debt levels remain within the town's established policy limits within the state's statutory limit for municipal debt. As of today, Hopkinton retains the very highest bond rating, Standard & Poor's AAA, which allows the town to borrow for construction and improvement projects at the very lowest possible financing cost. However, the town does face several noteworthy long-term financial challenges. First, looking at the 5-year capital plan, there may be future borrowing for additional water system infrastructure. This project could have a very significant water rate impact. However, I want to be very clear that items in the 5-year capital plan for fiscal years 2026 through 2030 are not fully developed and are not being considered for approval tonight, but they are important to understand for planning purposes. Second, over the past decade, the town has relied on new revenue from new residential construction, especially at legacy farms. to not only cover the cost of expanded services tied to growth, but to also cover a portion of the inflationary cost increases in town salaries and expenses that are unrelated to growth. If new residential development slows, as is projected in multi-year budget forecast, inflationary costs for providing ongoing services that are above the 2.5% property tax increase allowed by state Proposition 2.5 law will create future budget shortfalls. With these pressures, it will be important for the town to continue to focus on spending control with regards to operating budget and in considering the timing of major capital projects. The development of spending plans for fiscal year 2026 and beyond will have to balance these competing pressures. The town's elected and appointed leaders must track these issues very closely. Slide 5. As noted earlier, property tax makes up the vast majority of the town's revenue for general government activities, including the schools and other town departments. Local aid from the Commonwealth is the town's next important source of funds for fiscal year 2025-6. The town's benefited from a large increase in free cash. The $15 million in available free cash is due primarily to $5 million carried over from last year, $2.2 million in interest income, and $6 million was related to ARPA funds that were used to pay health insurance costs. Next slide.
Mike, can you just wrap up because you just ran out of time?
Can you give me 2 minutes?
I'll give you 1 more minute on the clock.
Okay. On the expense side, Hopkinton's astounding public schools are by far the largest slice of the spending picture. In addition to the direct segments shown for education, the majority of amounts for benefits and insurance up 11%, and debt payments that directly support education. For fiscal year 2026, the excluded debt service increased $12 million or 46%. This amount is mainly for a portion of the Charleswood School and Hopkins Addition borrowing. Next slide. Earlier mentioned was the town's AAA bond rating. A higher bond rating means lower borrowing costs. One of the factors that supports that rating is a healthy level of town financial reserves. Article 10 will propose to add $700,000 to the General Stabilization Fund to grow the fund as the overall budget grows. Next slide. The slide on the screen shows the current and projected general government fund principal debt levels and looks forward to taking into account projects that have previously been authorized at town meeting. Also included in green is potential debt service for expenditures in the 5-year capital plan. Keep in mind that these items are requests by department heads and have yet to be refined. And the proposed transfer of $5 million to the Capital Stabilization Fund can be used in some of the future borrowing.
Thank you, Mr. Manning.
Okay.
In the interest of fairness, I will give the school department 6 minutes on theirs as well. If we can load that up, and then we can bring you folks up to do your presentation.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Carol Kavanaugh, your superintendent of schools, and I am going to zip right through this presentation to make our 6-minute limit. We've done this presentation many times. Next slide, please. So as you know, as we are preparing our budget every year, we stress fiscal responsibility, and we make sure that Hopkinton's children are getting what they need. Next slide, please. What you see on the screen now is the current enrollment and the projected enrollment. We're about 24 students away from where our demographer said we would be in June of 2025, so we're tracking very closely. Next slide, please. The FY26 budget was built for a population of 4,335 students. Next slide. So our staffing requests for FY26. We are asking for an intensive special needs teacher, an assistant principal at the Elmwood School, a .75 reading tutor, .4 orchestra teacher, a 1.0 French teacher, .6 comp sci teacher, 3 special education paraprofessionals, and a 1.0 technician and a .5 custodian. I'll walk you through those asks very quickly. Next slide, please. We are also making reductions of 5 general education paraprofessionals across the district. Next slide. So the intensive special needs teacher, you can see that there's a circled number in the center there. When intensive classrooms get over 10, we look to have additional staffing, period. And so our intensive need population is growing, especially at the elementary level. Next slide. We like to keep our ratios at about 10 teachers to every 100 students. It dipped in 23 to 7.3. Next slide, please. And currently it's at 9.0 0.3%, which is more comfortable to us. Next slide, please. The 1.0 assistant principal, I know you can't see those numbers well from where you are, but in that second column, our number is 680, which is way too low in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So many are higher than us. Next slide. Here it's illustrated as a bar graph. So what you see on the right is the state, the left is Hopkinton, hence an assistant principal. Next slide, please. The 0.7 FTE for reading, about 25 to 30% of our kids at the elementary level are not at benchmark. By high school graduation, we get to 90, and we do that through tutoring, among other things. So we need another reading tutor. Next slide. 0.4 orchestra teacher, we have 111 students in grade 5 in orchestra, only 54 in grade 8. That program is growing exponentially, and it's a good problem to have. Next slide. The 0.6 computer science teacher, that's kind of the wave of the future. So many more students are interested in that. And at the high school, we need another French teacher just because of numbers. Next slide, please. As always, I like to show you our per pupil expenditure. Again, we are not leading the pack. We are 32nd in that group of 33 that historically I've shown you every single year since I've been here. So it's nice that we're keeping that at $17,000 while others are over $31,000. Next slide. If you would like to see what per pupil looks like broken down by bucket, you can see that we're either in the lower quartile or lower half for everything. Next slide. And yet, our Hopkinton Public Schools ranking remain on top. Our teachers, we are first in 233 districts, fifth in overall district quality of 217. We are 7th in the best places to teach. And next slide, Hopkinton High School is ranked 2nd among public high schools in Massachusetts, according to U.S. News and World Report. And now I will hand it over to Mrs. Rothermick.
Next slide, please. So the budget request for this year represents a salary increase of $2.8 million or 4.46% and an expense increase of $814,000 of 1.29% for a total increase request of 5.75%. Next slide. We also offset or increase the budget using revolving accounts, and that amounts to $5,438,000, which is an increase over last year of $845,000. Next slide. Contractual obligations, looking just at our salaries, represents $2.6 million, and the staff requests that you just heard from Dr. Kavanaugh total $174,000. Next slide. So we like to illustrate the budget in what we consider our budget drivers. So again, the contractual increase of $2.6 million, the special education requests of $61,000. The instructional cost and enrollment growth is actually a decrease of $61,000. And our supportive positions is an increase of $174,000, again with the salary increase of $2.8 million, and that's a total of 4.7 full-time equivalent positions. Next slide. Our expense increase, again, $814,000. Next. Breaking these down into the drivers again, contractual inflation and current services is an increase of $229,000. Student services, an increase of $278,000. And instructional cost, enrollment growth, and replacement costs is $306,000. Next slide. Putting those together, both the salary and expense, again, looking at those same drivers, contractual inflation is $2.8 million, special education of $339,000, instructional cost at $245,000, and administration support and facility enhancements at $174,000. Next slide.
That's the end of your 6 minutes.
This is my last slide for all to see.
So everyone take a good look at it. And with that, if you have any questions, comments, please make your way up. We can obviously answer anything else too if people have more specific detailed questions. On my left, Mr. Weismantel.
Ken Weismantel, 145 Ash Street. I have questions for the police chief, the fire chief, the DPW director. I'll ask all the questions and then sit down and they can answer them. For the police chief, Does the budget provide adequate public safety, and what is the last thing you cut in your budget? Similar question for the fire chief. Does the budget provide for adequate fire safety and EMS services, and what is the last thing you cut from your budget? For the DPW director, with this budget, does the pavement score get better or worse? Does the water department budget include a water audit? And how many meters are to be replaced in the water budget? And what is the last thing that you cut out of your budget?
Thank you. Chief Bennett, do you want to just answer real quick first? Do you have anything you can share on that? You can go up to any microphone. It'll work.
Mr. Moderator, the last thing we cut was in collaboration with the town manager. We pooled money together to enhance the training program. So $10,000 was taken out of my training budget. I don't feel that I'll still be eligible to apply for that and intend to. I don't feel it will impact our delivery of services or our training program in any significant way.
Thank you very much, Chief. Chief Darty, and then Director Reed, if you don't mind getting up and getting ready, just that way we can have it lined up and ready to go.
Through the moderator, the fire department's budget is sufficient, and honestly, we didn't make any cuts.
Thank you very much. DPW Director Reed.
I don't remember all the questions, but the DPW budget is sufficient. Ours was a reduction in the general fund budget from the previous year. I don't know if he wants to repeat the other questions.
Ken, is that sufficient, or is there something else you want to just get specifically out of DPW?
Is the pavement management score going to get better or worse by the end of this budget year?
Most likely worse.
Is a water audit included in water meters for the water department?
Water audit is not included in the budget, but we plan to request a grant from DP, which is how we funded our water audits in the past. And I do not have a number of how many meters we're going to replace.
And what's the last thing you cut?
Well, our budget was cut. We reduced our budget for diesel and gasoline based on usage of the town. We removed authorized unfilled positions, and we generally met the intent of the select board's budget message for the year.
Thank you, Carrie. On my right, Ms. Hayes.
Hi, my question's for the school.
Please make sure you state your name and address, even if I know you.
Darlene Hayes, 1/3 Road.
Thank you.
My question's for the schools. My only concern when I saw the school budget was that you were cutting 5 paraprofessionals, and are those the kids that are in need for those services? Is there going to be a loss for them?
Those are general education paraprofessionals, so they are not the paraprofessionals who service students who have special needs. They are at the elementary level at Marathon. They are people who are in Marathon classes, so no A paraprofessionals were eliminated from Marathon. There was one from Elmwood, one from Hopkins, and then there were 3 who were eliminated from the high school. At the high school level, students have more autonomy and need less oversight.
Thank you very much. On my left.
Hi there, Julius Billiter for Overlook Road. I had a question concerning the proposed budget. I noticed that you predicted a drop in growth after around 5 years. I was wondering if you estimated if that was related at all to the high cost of housing in Hopkinton, which was noted as being on average over $900,000, and was wondering if there were any plans or proposals for alleviating his high cost of housing, especially for those who will be taking the place of whoever is not necessarily taking the place of whoever's currently there, but ideally targeting younger adults, new parents, and and early career professionals who are unable to afford a $900,000 home, but who could perhaps afford a smaller $300,000 home and would then contribute to the economy for years to come as their children attend our schools.
Thank you. Mike, do you have an answer that we can give? Go ahead.
So the new growth that we model, or we try to come up with a number, is not based on the cost of the housing, the high cost of housing. It's the building, the new construction that goes on. It's based on proposals, permits that we see in the future. So in the past, when we say it's going down, is because we had legacy farms that started in 2013 with 900 units. So that was a huge increase to our new growth. And that development is winding down. So unless we get similar types of projects, when we're getting $2.5 million, $3 million in new growth annually, now it's going to be down to where it was before, maybe $1 million, $2 million of new growth. So it's not, has nothing to do with the cost of housing, but it's what we see down the pipeline in terms of permitting.
And are we working to get more projects such as that in the future?
So we don't really, I don't think, have an answer for that, because at this time, it's really, we don't have much that we can do with development. I mean, I don't know if, Elaine, if anything, your team has anything about future development in town. Otherwise, we have a few other speakers as well.
I have no information on future development projections at this time.
On my right.
Mary Ellen Dugan, 27 El Prilla Farm Road. I just had a question for the superintendent. I was anticipating some mention in the budget of a decrease in federal funds coming our way with the dissolution of the Department of Education. Do we know anything about that?
Well, that is something that we keep an eye on. As you know, we get title grants, Title I, II, III, and IV. We are anticipating that we will still get Title I and the IDEA grant for special education, but all of that is very tentative. And I'll be very honest with you, without the IDEA grant, we would be over $1 million short, and we may be back to this body looking for that money to fund some special education programs in Hopkinton. So thank you for asking the question.
Thank you, Dr. Kavanaugh. Again, on my right.
Timothy Boyven, 41 Pinecrest Village. No questions. I just wanted to make a comment and compliment Ms. Kavanaugh, Dr. Kavanaugh, and her staff. When you talk about bang for the buck, we're really getting it. And so I know you're retiring. I just wanted to compliment you on the good work you've done over the years. Thank you.
Folks, let's keep it moving. We're slowing it down by doing that. On my left.
Matthew Avranca, 6 Blackthorn Circle. First of all, congratulations to the teachers for the #1 ranking. But my question's about slide 11. Could you explain the y-axis?
Can we pull up, on which presentation? The school
leadership,
department?
the one that's up there right
Okay.
now, school department. I think it's slide 11, it's titled leadership.
Oh, the leadership one? Certainly. So what this is doing is it's comparing Hopkinton to the state, and it's doing it using 3 different kinds of leadership. So there are district administrators. I would be an example of that. There are district instructional leaders, and so we do have sort of an infrastructure, and we have a K-5 ELA director, a K-5 math director, a 6 to 8 ELA director, and then 2 special education directors. One is for K-5 and the other's for 6 to 8. That's what you would see represented in the gray. And then the school leaders are the ones in orange. And it may look to you like the bars for the state and Hopkinton are very similar, but one of the things that happens in Hopkinton is that our building administrators, because they don't really get caught up in a lot of I would say sort of discipline issues, because Hopkinton's children are very well behaved by and large. We like them to be instructional leaders, and we depend upon them to be in classrooms, to be evaluating teachers, to running professional learning, and they do that. And so that's one of the important things, which is why we're asking for that assistant principal.
So through the moderator, what does the y-axis mean? Like, what does it mean that we're at total of about 0.75 or 0.67 and the state's at 1.1-ish?
I'm sorry, I would have to get that information for you. I don't have it on hand.
What do the numbers mean?
Well, what I'm telling you.
Let's continue to put this through me, so let's move on to my right.
Brian Douglas, 14 Greenwood Road. I noticed one of the charts showing the growth of debt service over the years, and I was curious to understand what's driving the significant increase of capital expenditures in the general debt service. It starts in fiscal year 2027.
Mr. Manning?
So this is due to the debt that we're taking on for mostly for the Charleswood School and the Hopkins addition. I believe we're expecting $90 million in debt for the Charleswood School and $40 million for the Hopkins School.
Through the moderator, can I ask another question? It's the green stack that I'm curious about, the five-year capital
So the
proposal.
green, what I was trying to explain at the very end, was that we have a 5-year capital plan in place, and if we took all the items that are on that capital plan, that would be the new debt that we may have to take on. And as I was saying, first of all, that it hasn't really been groomed. No one's really gone over that list. This is department requests, so a lot can change there. And also, we plan, and I guess in the next article that comes up, is to have a $5 million into the Capital Stabilization Fund, which will be used to offset some of those numbers to help kind of level that off, soften that a bit.
May I ask one more question for clarity?
Hold on, I think we have a comment from Mr. Kisner on the Capital Improvement Committee that is related to this.
They let me up on stage, guys. You got to talk to me. So if we're going to get into capital stabilization or capital funds, I don't want to spoil Mr. Manning's conversation around how we're paying and moving the dollars and cents. But if you want to have a discussion about how we're allocating these, the way in which long-range planning works, what those bars look like, boy, am I excited to talk to you about it. Come ask me.
I'm just curious if the green bars are excluding the school debt. And that seems to be the case.
They're not reflective of debt, so we carry a 5-year long-range plan as part of capital planning so that we can actually strategically forecast and evaluate the expenses coming before the committee. So what you're seeing there is a reflection of the existing proposed expenses with what we believe to be representative numbers. In the event that that was submitted to you today and all of it is approved, that would be the green. That's not necessarily reflective of debt. That's reflective of things that may be proposed based on the existing long-range planning.
Thank you.
Thank you. On my left.
Ann Matina, 40 Eastview Road. I just have a general question, and it's either Dr. Kavanaugh or Mr. Manning can respond. Didn't we vote $90 million and $50 million for the new schools based on the projected increase in population? It's just a comment. Every time we talked about the needs of the schools, they were all based on projected increases in population, and now we're hearing there's probably likely to be a decrease in population.
Dr. Kavanaugh, do you have a quick answer to that question?
Sure. Well, one of the things that I think I had shown you earlier on a slide, very early on in the presentation, is that we are about 24 students today away from where our demographer predicted that we would be in June of 25. And so we really have a program here that runs from age 3 to age 22. And I mean, what that essentially means is you've got about 15 grade levels worth of students, and we're only 24 students away. And so at this point, we are tracking. And I can really only tell you what the school demographers tell us. If the town has different information at this point in time, it may not be syncing with what the school demographer has said. I think that our slide says that we're building a budget next year for like 3,355 kids or something.
Thank you, Dr. Kavanaugh. Seeing no one else, and because this is a simple majority, I'm going to try for a voice vote first. All those in favor of approving the budget as presented signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? That is unanimous. Thank you very much. And now we get to skip a few articles because we got them out of the way. Straight to Article 11. Transfer to the Capital Expense Stabilization Fund. Do we have a motion from appropriations?
Article 11, transfer to the Capital Expense Stabilization Fund. We move the motion as printed in the warrant articles and motions document.
Do you also have a recommendation?
Appropriation Committee recommends this article.
Select Board, do you have a recommendation?
Select Board recommends approval.
Thank you. Any comments, questions?
Can I explain it?
Sure, go ahead.
So we don't usually have transfers to the Capital Stabilization Fund, but this year we have in our free cash, we had $5 million that we could apply to it this year. And this for the purpose, as we were just talking about on that previous slide, with the 5-year plan, this is a good way to save this money to be used for capital projects down the road so we don't have to borrow.
Thank you very much. And seeing no one rising to the microphone, we're going to go ahead for another voice vote on this one. All those in favor of approving Article 11, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? And it's unanimous and so carries. On to Article 12. Mr. Manning, do you have a motion for us?
Article 12, transfer to the School Special Education Reserve Fund. We move the motion as printed in the warrant articles and motions document.
Thank you. And do you have a recommendation?
Appropriation Committee recommends this article.
Thank you. Select Board, do you have a recommendation?
Select Board recommends approval.
Thank you. Mr. Manning, would you like to briefly describe this?
Yes, this is $1,046,276 from free cash to fund the Special Education Reserve Fund. This fund provides increased support and visibility to out-of-district special education tuition payments made by the Hopkinton Public Schools.
And anyone? Seeing none, we're going to go ahead to another voice vote. All those in favor of approving Article 12, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? It's unanimous and so carries. On to Article 13, Home Rule Petition, Economic Development Special Revenue Account. Does the Select Board have a motion?
We do. Mr. Menon will present.
Hello, good evening. I'm Shahidul Manan, member of Select Board, speaking on behalf of the Select Board to discuss and explain the Article 13 Home Rule Petition about setting up an Economic Development Special Revenue Account. Next slide, please. So this is about setting up an account where we are going to put in our excise tax mill that we all agreed and passed last November.
Mr. Manon, before you continue, I hate to break your groove, but can you just make the motion first and then we'll let you keep going?
Sure. I move Article 13 motion as printed in the warrant and motions document.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the local mill tax was adopted in special town meeting, if you remember, November 18, and we are expecting 50 to 100K in revenue. And the plan is to use, when we discussed it last time, the plan is to use that mill tax revenue for economic development for our town. And it requires approval from the Massachusetts legislature, which triggers that we need to set up a special revenue account where we need to put the money. And then with all your approval, it will go to the state legislature for approval, and then to the governor for approval. And then only we can use that fund for the intended purpose, which is economic development. And the funds will support essentially all programs, activities, and operations for economic growth as much as we can. And the annual town meeting must approve all use of funds each year. It's going to be very transparent. October 1st of every year, our CFO is going to present a report on how the fund is used. And in the town meeting, we're going to discuss where it's going to be used, and everyone has to approve with single majority. Next slide, please. So a little bit on the context and opportunity, and I'll go pretty quick. We are a growing community, and we do have a lot of business interest with our growing and the excellent town that we are building, especially with the downtown corridor now complete and all the good things that's happening with our school and all. And we also see the pressure on our residential taxes, as you have seen year over year. So we are looking at diversifying our tax revenue with some more commercial help, and this is certainly a goal to use that. Today we are about 80% dependent on residential tax and only 11% for commercial, and about another 6 or 7% from commercial equipments. So the goal is to how we can diversify it to reduce the tax burden. And then we are also seeing regional competition. Our neighboring towns are already adopting such strategy and seeing good results. So we don't want to lose business. We want to support our business and also continue to grow. So that is certainly critical for our town's ongoing excellence as well. And the momentum is now with the excise tax that we have adopted. We are already collecting the money from January 1st. Now we want to set up this account so we can appropriate it properly to use for the economic development work that we intended it for. Next slide, please. And again, a little bit of repeat. We want to attract investment and we want to diversify. So for that, we need more economic development activities. We have set up an economic development office last year, a couple of years ago. But we need funding to fuel that activity. So this is going to help with a little bit of any and all activities that we intend, some incentives for current and new business, some infrastructure investment where we see appropriate, and some staffing help where we see necessary. It will help revitalize the community with a vibrant downtown. We expect to encourage and attract new local entrepreneurs and make Hopkinton more attractive to residents and visitors. And finally, certainly with new restaurants or new businesses, it will add to the service that is available, the amenities that's available to us as town residents, and we expect that it will help us certainly improve our quality of life for the residents. Next slide, please. The fund will be used, as I mentioned, for Economic Development Office, various activities, managing grants, marketing efforts, business support, all the activities that we can anticipate and plan. And we also have set up an Economic Development Advisory Board, if you remember, a few weeks back with the Select Board's approval. That is going to be also working closely with this office. And this fund, again, will work towards the strategic direction provided by that board. And of course, Chambers is a big partner. So all these three entities combined will help steer the fund. But again, the fund will be used only after the town approves it. And it will support projects that improve infrastructure, as I mentioned, attract investment, and stimulate long-term growth. So finally, the next slide, why should we invest now? Supporting Article 13 is a proactive move to invest in Hopkinton's future, expand our tax base, as I mentioned, to diversify and reduce the tax burden on residents, improve services, and enhance our community for generations to come. So I urge you to vote yes on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Menon. Does anyone have any questions or comments on the article? On my left.
Paul Ostrander, 10 DeCarlo Road. Speaking on behalf of the Hopkinton Chamber of Commerce's Economic Development Committee, we enthusiastically support Article 13, which proposes the establishment of a special revenue account dedicated to the economic development funded by the recently adopted local meals tax. With the funds already being collected, this forward-looking initiative represents a strategic investment, Hopkinton's future, and will ensure these funds are not lost in the marauds of other town revenue. As our town continues to grow, so does the need for a targeted professional economic development planning. Article 13 ensures a sustainable, accountable funding mechanism to attract businesses, support local entrepreneurs, and enhance Hopkinton's overall vitality. The committee believes that this creation of a staffed economic development office, working in collaboration with our advisory board, local organizations, will bring focused leadership and execution to key projects. With neighboring towns already making progress in this area, now is the time for Hopkinton to act. Article 13 allows us to leverage the current momentum and make meaningful long-term impact. The Chamber urges town meeting to support this essential step towards sustainable economic growth. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ostrander. On my right.
Darlene Hayes, 1 3rd Road. We've already passed this. We're already collecting the tax, so this is kind of a no-brainer to go on. One is I'm curious what amount of revenue was driven in the first quarter, and then my other second comment is the good thing about this is that there's so many things as a property owner, things like that, that we feel, or our own excise tax, that this is also felt by people coming into our town to utilize our restaurants, to go to Snappy Dogs, to go to the new restaurant where Central Public House is. So it's not just the people of Hopkinton that are participating in this tax, it's getting other people's money, and I think that's a good thing.
Thank you very much. On my left.
Julius Billiter.
Mr. Manon, do you have that, or would Kyla or Elaine be able to answer that?
Our projection is 50 to 100K over the year, and I think so far we have, I don't have the exact number accumulated.
Kyla, do you have that available?
Yeah, the first quarter was roughly $12,000.
Thank you. On my left.
Julius Billiter, 4 Overlook Road. First time coming to a town meeting, so I wasn't around when it was voted on. And could you remind us how much the tax is in percentage on top of anything else?
Sure, it's 0.75%.
Okay. Hey, I was just curious. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On my right.
Alana Cassidy, 19 Eastview Road. I support this article. I just was wondering, since January, where has the funds been going that we have gotten already?
Kyla, would you be able to answer that question?
Sure, it's collected by the state and we get distributions, and now it's held in a reserve fund.
Thank you very much. Seeing no one else, we're going to go ahead for another simple majority voice vote on this one. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, say nay. Okay, it's unanimous, so carries. And with that, we get to go on to Article 14. Capital pay-as-you-go, capital expenses. Do we have a motion from appropriations?
Yes, Article 14, pay-as-you-go capital expenses. We move the motion as printed in the warrant articles and motions document.
Thank you. And do you have a recommendation?
Yes, Appropriation Committee recommends this article.
Thank you. Does Select Board have a recommendation?
The Select Board recommends approval.
Thank you. Does Capital Improvement Committee have a recommendation?
I do, but what if I had a presentation too?
I'm going to have you recommend first, and then I'm going to give you a chance.
I do.
Do you recommend approval or?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. So, Mr. Kisner, if you'd like to come up to the podium.
Comment on.
Yeah, go ahead while Matt's getting up here.
Yeah, I just want to talk about what is going on with this. This is our capital infrastructure to extend possible and existing cash resources that are available for appropriation. Specifically, in this article, we have $6,218,224.81 from free cash and $438,471.19 from unexpended capital projects. This is reappropriation of surplus funds to supplement new capital expenditures. The source items where funds are to be reappropriated and the amounts are listed in the motions document.
Thank you very much. Mr. Kisner, you have a presentation for us. We will have 5 minutes on the clock.
I'm going to negotiate for the same 6 minutes that schools and appropriations got, please and thank you.
Try to aim for 5 and let's see what happens. We're moving at a good clip right now. Let's keep it going.
Hi, everybody. Truly, I feel like I'm starting center field for the Red Sox today, so thank you. Next slide. CIC, we are a multi-member committee, in this case 5 of us, which I've had the opportunity to be the chair of for a number of years, but truly the star of this committee is sitting behind me and to the left, and that is our town CFO, Kyla LaPierre. If you ever see her, thank her. She is the reason that much of this is moving, and we would not be having the conversation we are having today without her. What do we do in our committee? We review all capital requests of greater than $25,000 and present them to you here for your ultimate support and endorsement. In addition to new capital requests, we also handle allocations. So from your water and sewer enterprise funds, ambulance, as well as CPC proposals. Next slide. How have we typically done this historically? Well, we've taken a big picture view, folks. As you are aware, we've been saying yes to a lot of stuff. So if the expense was reasonable and within historical norms, we kind of went for it. You can see I have a quick mock-up here for you. We need 3 cruisers, CIC. Is this consistent with your replacement forecast? It is. Is the replacement to maintain service? Yes. Is it a Ferrari? No. Cruisers! Next slide. Obviously, that isn't a great way to do things, and as we're thinking about how we're going to have a more nuanced conversation moving forward, as we move into a realm of a little more fiscal discipline and a little less explosive growth, CIC was really trying to think about how do we actually start to bring some standard and objective criteria to this and put some structure around it. I think it's pretty clear I'm all about the vibes. When we're talking about the allocation of your tax dollars, vibes should be a small, necessary, but small component. So I think what I want to reinforce to you here is that all items submitted have a value, but if we're really going to control our expenses, we have to ask if they're all necessary. So what you can see here is the enhanced assessment criteria that we've brought to bear here. So things like duration of expense, service impact. You'll notice some of them are Irish, nay, Hopkinton gradient colored, so things like adherence to our town philosophy and whether there are financial offsets. So ultimately, we tried to use this to bring a little bit of objectivity to the conversation this time and a little bit more structure. Each member generated their own recommendations independently. Do not believe I rule with an iron fist. It is at best a passive paw. The criteria are really just a tool so we can structure an assessment conversation. Next slide. You will see there are so many more questions on this slide now. We have to be doing something different. There's at least 4 times as many bullets. What I would really try to draw your attention to is the different depth and context of things that we're evaluating now. Is the cost significant? $75,000 in the context of the town budget? No, it's not, especially for a potentially hybridized police cruiser. Is it a one-time expense? Yeah, he's just looking for one cruiser potentially. Is it consistent with replacement forecasts? Is it aligned with town philosophy? Look, I favor a certain Italian sports car, but we shouldn't be driving them around town for police purposes. I hope you walk away from this slide seeing that CIC has been investing time and energy in trying to bring more objective criteria and assessment to the capital expense process. Consistently, when you find me in town, the #1 message is, why are we spending so much money and what are we going to do about it? The answer is we're going to try really hard to more objectively assess the things coming before us and have a more transparent conversation with you. Next slide. Folks, I know I'm going fast. It's not nearly enough time. So for the buckets today, we put them into 4 categories. You can see they're handily labeled for you. Things that we would consider top priority. These are items that the committee was unanimously aligned on. Should do, things that the committee was largely aligned on. Can do, things that we were aligned on and thought had merit. And help needed. You'll never guess what that bucket's about. Next slide. Now this one looked a lot better with animation, which I was unaware we weren't allowed to bring because the reveal was at the end where we showed that we weren't going to ask for any new tax dollars. So I feel like we started with the sizzle and I'm unfortunately going to have to walk you back to the steak. So you can see what we have listed here as the priorities. I'd love to go through them all with you. I'll give you a special call out on the public safety radio system upgrade. If and when there are questions around that one, come ask me. But suffice to say, you've already asked about public safety and your chiefs of fire and police respectively have testified before our committee that it is a significant need. The should do's, these are again the things we recommend. Can do's, HVAC, we read the public forums and we're on Facebook just like you are. Help needed, what I really hope you see this as is we're looking for your recommendation and guidance. So adaptive playground, you'll actually see later it says disapproval for us because deferral is not an option. We tend to believe on something like this that it's ultimately at your discretion. Ken, you asked about pavement earlier. You'll notice that there is no article up here for DeCarlo or Peppercorn or for Kerry's roadway plan. That's because for 3 years in a row, we voted it down. I know I have 5 seconds. I'm going to ask for the extra minute. I have 1 slide left. We voted it down. Folks, if we do not support Kerry's pavement plan, we're looking at a deterioration of roads that will be upwards of, I believe we discussed this, being somewhere in the neighborhood of about 20% more expensive to actually relay than they are to just maintain now. But we can't make that decision for you. We can simply tell you that Kerry's budget is predicated on receiving capital funding that she's not receiving right now, and if we continue to go in this direction, you're going to see an increased operational expense budget from the DPW. Not a threat, just in a statement of facts for the conditions of the roads. Next slide. Here's the budget by breakdown, just so you can kind of see where we are and how the buckets are splashing out. I'd be so happy to talk to you about this for literally as long as you will listen. Please don't hesitate to ask questions about this or any of the items. The criteria we assessed, why we voted the way we did, what we considered. We work for you. Our process is transparent. Thank you so much for your time and attention.
Thank you, Mr. Kisner. Any questions, comments? I see one getting up on my left, and I see someone else getting up on my right. So I'm going to start on my left.
Hi there, Julius Billiter again for Overlook Road. I'm noticing here that there is $200,000 allocated for entry doors for the middle school. Oh, but only 100,000 for system-wide technology upgrades for the schools. Could you explain a little bit why the funds are allocated such?
So I'll take a top-level swing in terms of how the funds are allocated, and if you want to ask a more SME question about specific costs, I would defer you to schools and IT. So I'm going to give you a somewhat unsatisfying but honest answer, which is we evaluate them on merit. So in this case, the cost of the doors was evaluated to us based on proposal and reasonable evaluation as being, I believe you said 225,000, whereas when IT came to us, it was 100,000. So we provide no suggestions about what that number or allocation should be. Rather, the department heads come, they make a recommendation, we review that allocation against the criteria, but we do not set numbers.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
Thank you very much. On my right.
Hi, Rebecca Johnson at 20 Birkdale Lane. I noticed that on the proposal there was a suggestion for 3 new police cruisers. Given the pretty small size of the town, I'm just wondering what those are used for.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Chief, I'm going to take a shot here as well since we've talked about it. When I get it wrong, by all means, kind of come up and fix me here. So the police cruisers run on what we would call like a maintenance replacement plan. So we try to stagger them so that they aren't all coming due at once. So there's an expected life cycle. So we think the car is going to last for X miles, X years, and we ultimately plan to replace them on a fixed interval. Because the chief and the police department are actually pretty good about adhering to the life cycle of those vehicles, they come to us with a pretty fixed cadence and basically say, I bought a vehicle, I told you it was going to last for X years. At the end of X years, I was going to ask you for another one. Hi, Matt, it's been X years. I'd really like another vehicle. So in this case, we're replacing existing units. We still are not letting the chief joyride around in Ferraris.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. On my right again.
Muriel Kramer, 39 North Street. Thank you to the financial presenters for the best almost 20 minutes of the night. I have a general philosophical question. I really appreciate this more in-depth capital improvements presentation because I think it helps with the understanding so people can really understand the process better. When we talk about free cash, I know it was mentioned we had it a lot this year and we're using it substantially, which is terrific. I have no objection to that. But what philosophically is the approach to free cash? Is there any way to sort of predict how much we will have in certain years? Is there any predictability about that process?
So once again, I'll try and lead it off from a capital perspective, and then I will yield to the much more intelligent financial figures behind me. So from our perspective, we're always aware of what the budgetary number that we're working from. So this year, we had the opportunity to come to the select board and be part of the visioning process. We had a real idea where the top-level number was going to probably come in and what the overall budget constraints were going to be. So right away, we're starting from where do we want to land the plane? So I want to at least give you an idea that I don't try to take off on the FY review process until I have an idea of where we're going and what plane parts have been left available for me. From there, we're really trying to have a collaborative conversation. So is this going to be a year where we're searching for a little more money for schools, or is it a little more money for DPW? Perhaps it's a little less money for everybody, and maybe we can afford some new capital things. Ultimately, we have some pretty mandatory targets that Kylie would do a better job than I will of explaining that we want to maintain in our stabilization and as part of our bond rating and our overall financial policies. But the best answer for you here is that we're looking at the overall capital plan, and we're trying to do our best to strategically manage against it. It's the best we can do.
Thank you, Mr. Kisner. On my left.
Hi, Sabine St. Pierre, 1 Woody Island Road. I'm president of the LMPA, Lake Maspinock Preservation Association. I just wanted to publicly thank Parks and Rec for bringing the Sandy Beach parking lot to the forefront. It's been a long overdue project, and it's become a safety concern. And so I'm happy for all the support that the town's giving this article as well. So thank you.
Thank you. On my left again.
Hi, Karen Crum, 12 Joseph Road. With all of these expenses, especially the ones that are $50,000 and over, are there a certain number of bids that they're required to get for these? And are people negotiating these that actually have experience negotiating contracts or bids?
Yeah, so for some of our bigger items, you're going to see that we're going out and we're doing like an RFP. So as you might imagine, and the schools have shown us in years past, we don't just get to go out and build a school. There's an RFP. We take in multiple items. When Kerry's looking at something like perhaps replacing a snowplow or a dump truck for the DPW, that's a little bit less of an RFP because it's a good that has a fixed commodity cost, and generally speaking, we can see what the cost along the market is. So I think you're looking at leveraging RFP once you're starting to get into a project that has potentially variable costs, whereas a lot of the items that come before the committee in HVAC, a dump truck, police cruisers, they're known fixed cost one-time items. So I think that's where you see a little bit of the variance. I would want to yield to our town officials to speak about the qualifications of our department heads, but I would tell you they've never been anything but far more knowledgeable and patient than I have ever been in our conversations with them. If you're catching shortcomings or a lack of knowledge here, I promise you it's us, not them.
Thank you.
Ask a follow-up to that, though?
Very quick, yes.
Are there like restrictions on us for towns that we can't do like heavy negotiations on pricing with things, or can we?
So, Elaine, can you speak to that, or can Kyla speak to that when it comes to negotiations on that?
We have to follow procurement rules. So when you're asking about bids, there are requirements for us to get 3 bids, et cetera. So we have to be very clear to make sure that we follow those.
Thank you.
I hope this is something new and exciting, Muriel. Let's hear it.
Muriel Kramer, 39 North Street. No, the question I had was really about the predictability of free cash. So it was a great answer on a lot of things, Matt, but I was really looking for like the detail on how we plan around free cash into the future.
So, unfortunately, one of the things with the free cash is it comes from leftover funds that are there from what we weren't able to expend or didn't expend throughout the year. So we can't really do much to predict it, because if we were predicting it, then we're clearly not budgeting effectively.
So I understand that. I appreciate that, Mr. Moderator. What I'm wondering is how do we, into the out years, philosophically plan our strategy around free cash? I think that we have probably used a lot of the available free cash this year, and I wonder how we think about that for the out years coming, understanding exactly that, Mr. Moderator, that we can't know it.
And that's going to be great for future appropriations committee, select board, and capital improvement meetings, so we can plan it going forward.
I think it's a great
On my
question.
left.
I think it's a great question for the financial.
Thank you, Muriel. On my left.
Wow.
Hi, Barry Rosenblum, 10 Briarcliff Drive. Could you explain this reappropriation of prior capital? Have we been paying interest expense on that?
I'm going to just yield this immediately to Kyla so it's correct.
So it is capital surplus, so the money was allocated for certain projects. Historically, the money was not needed to be spent, so it is extra capital that we are now using for new capital projects instead of additional borrowing.
Follow up, Mr. Moderator?
Brief follow on, go ahead.
So that means we took debt in 2019 for one of these projects, and we've been paying interest on those bonds while the cash has been sitting in an account of the towns earning interest income.
It's not all debt. Some of the reappropriation is from free cash as well, but yes, the money has been earning interest as we sit on it.
Thank you.
Other comments, but thank you.
Thank you very much. On my right.
Hi, Beth Malloy, 190 Lumber Street. Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't we already vote a few years ago to fix the parking lot up at Sandy Beach, and it was never done?
I think there were some changes to the budget on that, but Kyla, can you just speak to that briefly?
There was a Sandy Beach parking lot article. It was not the same detail as what's included in this capital request.
What was done to the parking lot up there?
John?
So
nothing was done to the actual parking lot.
Okay.
So did we give you money one other time to fix that parking lot, and you didn't do it?
Beth,
yes.
let's go through me.
Through the moderator.
We're not going to do a back and forth. We're
Okay,
not with
I'm
the staff.
asking you.
Okay, so ask your question.
I'm asking if we voted a long time ago to put money towards fixing the parking lot up there, and that money was redirected somewhere, and now they're coming back and asking for it again. Am I right or wrong?
So the money, once we allocate it as town meeting, once we appropriate that money for something, it can't just be shifted to another project unless town meeting appropriates it to go to another project. So even if that money was approved and used for parts of that, it couldn't be used beyond the scope of the project as town meeting approved it.
But there was nothing done to the parking lot.
The repaving of the parking lot was not included in the prior approved article.
Okay.
Thank you. On my left.
Sabine St. Pierre, One Woody Island. From what I understand, it was a 3-section project. And so I believe the first 2 were done, and I think it used the whole budget, which is why the parking lot wasn't done.
That matches my understanding.
Thank you.
Well.
And now, seeing that we've gotten to the end of our questions, this is another simple majority. We're going to go ahead for another voice vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? It's unanimous and so carries. Thank you. On to Article 15, rescind authorized but voided capital projects. Does appropriations have a motion?
Yes, we do. Article 15, rescind authorized but voided capital projects. We move the article as written in the, we move the article as printed in the warrant articles and motions document.
Thank you. And do you have a recommendation?
Essentially, this rescinds the following capital projects from the 2024 annual town meeting due to insufficient funding. The Water Enterprise Fund did not have enough retained earnings to fund the 4 capital projects. These projects and purchases will be voted again in upcoming articles.
And do you have a recommendation, Mr. Manning?
Appropriation Committee recommends approval.
Select Board, do you have a recommendation?
The Select Board recommends approval.
CIC, do you have a recommendation?
We recommend approval.
Thank you very much. Mike's given us our explanation. I don't see anyone rush into the microphone, so we're going to go ahead for another vote. Voice vote, simple majority. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Another unanimous, so carries. Thank you very much, folks. Keeping it moving. Article 16, Water Department vehicle replacement. Do we have a motion from appropriations? Mr. Manning.
Article 16, Water Department vehicle replacement, W3. We move the motion as printed in the warrant articles and motions document.
Thank you. And what is your recommendation?
We recommend approval. Appropriation Committee recommends approval.
Thank you. Does Select Board have a recommendation?
The Select Board recommends approval.
Thank you. Does CIC have a recommendation?
Recommends approval.
Thank you. Mr. Manning, do you have anything that you want to say about the project?
This is one of the projects that we just rescinded, and we have to vote on again. Essentially, it's a replacement truck for the Water Department.
Thank you very much.
Can I just explain this a little bit more?
Yeah.
Again, the Water Department did not have enough retained earnings, so this is one of those articles that we're voting on again. This article provides $95,000 from Water Enterprise retained earnings.
Thank you very much. Mr. Weismantel.
Ken Weismantel, 145 Ash Street. What's interesting to me was $95,000 last year. It's $95,000 this year. Do we have inflation that we have to worry about?
Mr. Manning or Kyla, do you have a response of any kind?
It is the same as last year.
Okay. And seeing nothing else, let's go ahead to a vote. Another simple majority. Voice vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Unanimous and so carries. Article 17, Water Department vehicle replacement, W1. Mr. Manning, do you have a motion?
Article 17, Water Department vehicle replacement, W1. We move the motion as printed in the warrant articles and motions document.
And do you have a recommendation?
Appropriation Committee recommends approval.
Thank you. Does Select Board have a recommendation?
The Select Board recommends approval.
Does CIC have a recommendation?
Recommends approval.
Thank you. Mr. Manning, do you want to briefly describe this?
Yes, this is replacement vehicle W1. This was another one from last year that we voted, and we have to vote again. This article provides $61,296 from Water Enterprise retained earnings. and $8,703 from unexpended capital projects. This is reappropriation of surplus funds to supplement new capital expenditures. The source items where funds are to be reappropriated and the amounts are listed in the motions document.
Thank you. Seeing no questions or comments, I'm going to go to another voice vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Unanimous and so carries. Article 18, Townwide Water Main Flushing Program. Mr. Manning, do you have a motion for us?
Article 18, Townwide Water Main Flushing Program. We move the motion as printed in the warrant articles and motions document.
Thank you. And do you have a recommendation?
Appropriation Committee recommends approval.
Thank you. Does the Select Board have a recommendation?
The Select Board recommends approval.
Thank you. Does CIC have a recommendation?
Capital recommends approval.
Thank you. Mr. Manning, would you like to briefly describe this one for us?
This article provides $18,679 from water enterprise retained earnings and $81,320 from unexpected capital funds. The source items where funds are to be reappropriated and the amounts are listed in the motions document. This is generally just to support our water main flushing program. It's a more regular process, and it's to help get more clear water. We've been having some problems with the water in the last couple of years.
Thank you. And seeing no questions, I'm going to go ahead, do another voice vote on this. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Unanimous, so carries. Article 19, Grove Street Water Tank Design. Mr. Manning, do you have a motion for us?
Article 19, Grove Street Water Tank Design. We move the motion as printed in the warrant articles and motions document.
And do you have a recommendation for us as well?
Appropriation Committee recommends this article.
Select Board, do you have a recommendation?
The Select Board recommends approval.
CIC, do you have a recommendation?
Capital recommends approval.
Thank you very much. Mr. Manning, would you like to briefly go over this one for us?
This article provides $250,000 from enterprise from unexpended capital funds. The source items from water funds are to be reappropriated, and the amounts are listed in the motions document. Water tank number 1 is almost 60 years old, and this is beginning the plan to figure out what is needed to replace the tank.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Mr. Weismantel, on my left.
Ken Weismantel, 145 Ash Street. Do we like the big blue tank that we just purchased a few years ago? And if we do like it, why can't we just duplicate it right next to it? I have a hard time of figuring out $250,000 if we use the same tank that we do and we need one more drawing that says put it next to it, and we use most of the same construction documents that we paid for on the first tank.
Mr. Manning?
I'll defer to the DPW director for that.
Director Reed, can you come and just let us know if there is an easy answer to this question?
So we do have, can y'all hear me? Oh. I'm going to sneak over the other one. All right. Yeah? Okay. We did do an initial feasibility study, and it will actually be more cost effective to rehab the existing tank than to build a new tank that's similar to the big blue one, as you explained. We have the report if anybody wants to review that. But the request right now for design is to help us finalize that, decision making so that we are making the most cost-effective long-term investment.
Thank you, Carrie. And then I have one other question on my left, it seems.
Yes, that's Julius Billiter, 4 Overlook Road. Question for Carrie? Is that the woman who just spoke?
Yeah, we'll go for the question. I'll bring her back up to answer potentially if it's something I can't.
Just wondering, in this $250,000 proposal, this is just for the planning and design of the tank, not the actual construction or groundbreaking?
That is correct.
Okay. Do we have an estimation of how long it will take to construct a new tank?
Carrie, that might be one for you.
Darn, this one doesn't work again, right? Okay, now y'all, yes. I do not have an estimate for the construction. We will have to come back to annual town meeting to request additional funding for the construction. At that point, we'd have a schedule of work.
Okay, and so do you have an idea of how much the tank would cost in total after construction and such?
We anticipate construction of a new tank would cost between $1.2 and $1.3 million.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other questions or comments, we're going to go to a vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? It's unanimous, so carries. On to Article 20, Water Vehicle Replacement W9. Mr. Manning, do you have a motion for us?
Article 20, Water Department Vehicle Replacement W9. We move the motion as printed in the warrant articles and motions document.
Thank you. And do you have a recommendation?
Appropriation Committee recommends approval.
Thank you. Does Select Board have a recommendation?
The Select Board recommends approval.
Does Capital have a recommendation?
Capital recommends approval.
Thank you. Mr. Manning, would you like to speak to the article?
This article provides $170,888.03 from certified free cash, which is to be repaid by the Water Enterprise Fund to the general fund within a period of 2 fiscal years, and $19,111.97 from unexpended capital funds. This is reappropriation of surplus funds to supplement new capital expenditures, the source item where funds are to be appropriated, and the amount is listed in the motions document.
Thank you. Anyone to ask a question? Don't see anyone, so we're going to go ahead and do another voice vote. All those in favor of Article 20, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Unanimous, so carries. Article 21, Supplemental Appropriation for MWRA Connection Design Work. Mr. Manning, do you have a motion for us?
Yes, Article 21, Supplemental Appropriation for MWRA Connection Design Work. We move the motion as printed in the warrant articles and motions document.
Thank you. And do you have a recommendation?
Appropriation Committee recommends approval.
Select Board.
The Select Board recommends approval.
And Capital.
Capital recommends approval.
Okay. Mr. Manning, can you speak to this?
This article provides $375,000 from certified free cash, which is to be repaid by the Water Enterprise Fund to the general fund within a period of 2 fiscal years. This work is needed to finish design work, which is currently at about 60% to complete it.
Thank you very much. Any questions, comments? Ann on my left.
Ann Mattina, 40 Eastview Road. Am I reading this through the Water Enterprise Fund? So that means it's coming, it's coming from our payments.
So yes.
Our payments for water. So we're just borrowing against future revenue?
So we're paying the amount out of certified free cash.
Okay.
And then what we're going to do is we're going to refund that money out of the general fund, according to this, with the money that we make from. Am I correct in that, Mr. Manning?
The
Yes.
Water Enterprise.
Pretty much. The retained earnings from future water, from the Water Enterprise Fund will repay this essentially a borrowing within the town back to free cash or the general fund.
And how does that impact the taxpayer?
Well, right now, we have certified free cash. We're going to use that free cash right now. So
I get that part. It's the
Ann,
future part.
So yeah, this is money that is obviously, as you know, this is money that we already have. And now what this will do is it's going to be paid from it. We're going to have to reimburse it because the money itself, whenever it comes to these kinds of advancements for water users, it can't be coming out of the general fund as a whole because we need to have it so that users are paying for it, not the whole town.
Okay.
So that's just saying that we're using that money that we already have in existence so that we can then deal with getting that money later on from users and not have them pay up front.
So again, Mr. Moderator, through you, how does that impact individual water users?
Kyla, do you have anything about how this impacts the water rates?
So the water bills that you currently pay, they go into retained earnings, and retained earnings, once we have sufficient balances, will be used to pay back free cash.
So in other words, there will be no increase.
The increase that will be presented to the Select Board will be done at the end of June, but right now, the water rate was increased 40% and approved for 25.
Right. Again, in the future,
Ann,
is it going to go up again?
And I appreciate it, but we really have to keep moving. We have more people in line to keep asking questions. So on my right.
Mary Arnott, 51 Teresa Road. I read an article recently that the town was looking at, instead of connecting to the MWRA, which we had all thought was going forward from previous meetings, that there also might be an option that is being looked at now to build our own water treatment plant and do something to our wells and pumps. So is this money saying that we have now gone back to the original plan that we approved, that we are going to connect through the MWRA, and we are no longer looking at the other option of our own water treatment plant?
So I can answer that one for you, Mary. So that's actually that we were looking at it from a two-pronged approach of the long-term plan being to connect to the MWRA when we've proposed it past meetings, with the short-term solution of addressing PFAS remediation and water quality remediation through filters at our own wells. So we do have a filter at the major affected wells to try and filter that out. But the problem is it's really not a long-term solution. That filter is going to have to be replaced and destroyed, and we're going to have to keep buying new ones and deal with, getting rid of the old ones, which is already going to be an expense too. So this is to try to get a long-term solution to that.
Through you, Mr. Moderator, do we have any idea? I know the filters have to be replaced, and it will take some time to connect. But the article also said we were looking at building our own water treatment plant. That's in addition to the filters needing to be replaced. And do we have a time frame, like how these two solutions are going to come together?
Can anyone speak to them, Mr.? Oh, you can. Oh, perfect. Yes.
Paul Gallagher, 38 Glen Road, and through the moderator, I'm also the chair of the Water and Sewer Advisory Board. I believe that the article that Ms. Arnott is referring to was derived from one of our meetings recently. So we're an advisory board. We're not a decision-making board. We're advising the town and the water and sewer enterprises on issues to do with water and sewer in town. Obviously, an important issue at the moment is upgrading and expanding the water treatment system, and the proposed route to do that is through connection to MWRA. In looking at that project, we've looked at all the options, and we looked at some options that involve continuing to use some of the existing sources, and the purpose of that is just so that when the project is finally executed, it's at the best capital and operating cost for the users of the water and sewer system going forward. I think the one conclusion that we've come to is that there is no zero cost or do nothing option that actually solves the problem, and you can't even delay at this stage. You have to move forward and do the project. It's in the course of doing the project, I do think it's likely that there will be some things will change about the design, like we'll optimize the design, we'll optimize how we want to go forward, but this design work is absolutely needed, and it's got nothing to do with the work we're doing to be in a position to advise about how the full project, the execution phase of the project should proceed. So this is really needed.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
On my right.
To the moderator, Gary Trackman, 12 Hartwood Way. My question is, are any of these funds, any of these expenses eligible for reimbursement under the national settlement agreements?
Mr. Manning.
I am not this is probably a question for DPW Director, but I'm not aware of funds available for this.
Carrie, is that something you have an answer for, if we have any of those?
No, at this time, we do not expect them to be part of that program, to be able to be reimbursed.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, the town is not a participant in the agreement, in the settlement?
No.
Why is that?
So, Carrie, I don't know if you have an answer for that,
Do
but
not have an
would
answer for that.
Elaine or anyone on the select board be able to answer that? No?
Should we be looking into that?
So, so I think that might be a great question to ask the select board going forward, but for the time being, you know, we're looking at the actual expense as it is in front of us too. So I think we're just going to suggest that you follow up with town staff later as well.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you. On my right.
Hi, Darlene Hayes, 1/3 Road. A 40% increase in water bill is massive, and not knowing kind of the long term of where this will take us. But didn't a few years ago we pass a very similar article for MWRA and our connection being through Ashland that fell through, and now we're doing the same thing to connect through Southborough? What happened to the Ashland funds?
Ms. Reed, do you have the ability to speak to this?
Yes, the funds that were approved at the 2016 annual town meeting were reappropriated at the 2022 annual town meeting to change the course of action from connecting through Ashland to connecting through Southborough. So they were just reappropriated for the same purpose.
Thank you. Mr. Weissmantel.
Ken Weissmantel, 145 Ash Street. Mr. Moderator, I request that this vote be taken with the clickers.
Okay, and so then, seeing that there is none, and we have had a little back and forth, let's go ahead and we'll put this to a clicker vote, get a chance to try something out a little different. So if everyone wants to get theirs ready, we're going to go ahead and start the vote for Article 21. Can we go ahead and put that up on the screen? So now you'll be able to press your button and you will see that it will signal on the screen an OK and a 1 or a 2 based on if you voted yes or no. You should also then see it start to slowly click up. I have just a few seconds I have on my watch that we're watching for this, but I'm also just going to see when we start to slow down a little. Okay, thank you. And we're going to go ahead and close the poll. Okay, and the motion carries 128 to 21. And now we're going to go on to Article 22, the Fruit Street Wastewater Treatment Facility. Mr. Manning, do you have a motion for us?
Yes, I do. Article 22, Fruit Street Wastewater Treatment Facility, Screen System Replacement. We move the motion as printed in the warrant articles and motions document.
And do you have a recommendation?
Appropriation Committee recommends this article.
Select Board, do you have a recommendation?
The Select Board recommends approval.
Capital, do you have a recommendation?
Capital recommends approval.
Thank you. Mr. Manning, can you speak to the article?
This article provides $465,000 from sewer enterprise retained earnings. New screen required to comply with discharge permit from the Mass DEP, improves treatment and water quality.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, I'm going to go ahead to another voice vote on this one. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? It's unanimous and so carries. Article 23, sewer main replacement design. Mr. Manning, do you have a motion for us?
Article 23, sewer main replacement design. We move the motion as printed in the warrant articles and motions document.
Thank you. Do you have a recommendation?
Appropriation Committee recommends approval.
Thank you. Select Board, do you have a recommendation?
The Select Board recommends approval.
Capital Improvement, do you have a recommendation?
We recommend approval.
Thank you. Mr. Manning, can you speak to the article?
This article provides $350,000 from sewer enterprise retained earnings for sewer main replacement in the vicinity of Wood Street, recommended in the town's asset management plan.
Thank you. Do we have any comments or questions? Seeing none rising to the microphone, I'm going to go ahead and go for another voice vote for us. So all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Unanimous, so carries. Article 24, adaptive playground at Marathon Elementary School. Appropriations Committee, do you have a motion for us?
Article 24, adaptive playground at the Marathon Elementary School. We move the motion as printed in the warrant articles and motions document.
Thank you. And do you have a recommendation?
Appropriation Committee recommends approval.
Thank you. Select Board.
The Select Board recommends approval.
Thank you. Capital Improvement.
So we recommend, I suppose it says disapproval, but I'd like to comment if I can.
Can you just make the recommendation first, and once we get Mike's discussion, we'll move on to let you.
So we recommend disapproval as written.
Thank you. Mike, can you just speak to the article quickly?
Just quickly, from the money perspective, the article provides $943,000 from certified free cash for an adaptive playground at the Marathon Elementary School. Unless the school wants to provide more information.
Thank you. And then, Mr. Kisner, did you want to explain the CIC position?
Yeah, quickly here. So as I noted during my presentation, not really an option for us to reflect deferral, which is ultimately what the committee did. This one kind of came out of nowhere from a long-range planning and cost perspective, so I suspect you'll hear from a number of us, myself included, how we feel about this as individuals, but we didn't feel like it was appropriate to make a recommendation to the meeting based on that, so we ultimately yielded to the wisdom of town meeting.
Thank you. So do we want to go ahead and, does anyone have any questions, comments? I would have been surprised if no one got up. Mary, go ahead.
Mary Arnott, 51 Teresa Road. I want all children to be able to play on the playgrounds at the schools. I just had a question about the amount of money. Was there an analysis, or did we look at, is there any way to adapt what's in the playgrounds at this time so that all children can participate? And what would be the cost of trying to just adapt current playgrounds? Is this a brand new, additional playground? That's kind
So this is a brand new additional playground. On the cost of other playgrounds, a quick answer, I'm sure, from someone over at the school department administration can tell us a little bit. Susan, do you want to? Yeah, if you think that would, yeah, at this point, I mean, we have enough people. Let's go let's do the presentation, 5 minutes on the clock, and hopefully that'll answer the questions.
Okay, thank you for your question. Hopefully going through this will help. Next slide, please. Town meeting last year approved the use of CPC money for the engineering study, design, and construction bid documents for an adaptive playground. An adaptive playground committee was formed to guide the direction of this process, hire a designer, and seek community input. Working with the design group, Beta, the committee chose the location of the Marathon School after a process that began with 198 town-owned parcels. Next slide, please. The Adaptive Playground Committee consisted of 2 community members, 1 CPAC member, a member from the Commission on Disability, member from Parks and Rec, Department of DPW, 3 high school students, the Assistant Superintendent, Finance and Operations for the schools, and the Director of Student Services. Also included as a non-voting member was a representative from CPC. Next slide. The project goal was to develop a new playground in Hopkinton that is accessible to people of all abilities. Again, this would be the first adaptive playground for the town of Hopkinton. Next slide. So what is an inclusive playground or an adaptive playground? It is designed to be accessible to all for children of all abilities to play together. Universal design means that it features more ramps, accessible paths, and ground level play. It also has sensory-rich opportunities, encourages social play, and is a safe and supportive environment. Next slide. The benefits of inclusive play: promotes social inclusion, supports physical development, can't read all of this, boasts cognitive growth, enhances sensory experiences, improves emotional well-being, encourages communication, equal play opportunities, and promotes physical activity. Next slide. So the first meeting of the Playground Committee, again, we started with a process of 198 town-owned parcels. The town helped us to narrow those parcels down to 32 buildable sites. The Playground Committee also developed 15 evaluation criteria which were used to evaluate these sites for things such as parking, driveways, permitting, topographical characteristics. After reviewing these parcels, the top-ranked parcels, the committee unanimously agreed on the final site, which was the Marathon School. Next slide. And you can see in the blue boxed area behind the Marathon School is the area that we are speaking about. Next slide. The second meeting was to look at a landscape analysis and some early thoughts. We reviewed the selected sites, shared some initial ideas for potential layouts, collaborated on some design features, and looked at an adaptive playground survey results that was sent to the community. Next slide. The third meeting, we narrowed it down to 4 design concepts based on all of that feedback. Next slide. These 4 concepts you can see here, with the playground being in the blue. Concept 1 broke a playground into 2 separate sections around the recess area, which is depicted in green. Concept 2 put all of the playground closer to the backside of the Marathon. Concept 3 spread an entire playground area around in the front of the recess area. And concept 4 became a smaller area that was adjacent to the existing playground. And that was the concept that was chosen. Next slide. Looking at conceptual design options, this is where we started to drill down into schematic design. Next slide. And here you can see a depiction of the different elements, which gets better with the next slide, please. You can see the elements are really more ground level play, which allows children of all abilities to be able to access and get onto all of those elements and play together with their peers. Next slide. Here you can see a quiet area off with a playhouse, and the playground also has a pathway around which encourages different movements, which you'll see. Next slide. You can see the different movements that are suggested in the path, which again is helpful to students. And the slide in the top is accessible with just a ramp and not stairs. Next slide. And again, this is a top-level view of the whole backside, and you can see how it is adjacent to the existing playground, which is at the top left. And again, the green depicts the recess area, which is the field that they'll use for both gym and recess.
Thank you, Ms. Rothenberg. Can you just also, there was one part of the question I just want to make sure we address, because I know you covered a whole lot of it, was just the part of, did we look at adding accessible features to other playgrounds and came onto this project as the one to choose?
So we didn't look at dismantling existing playgrounds or pulling apart and trying to add different features. One of the things that is important with an accessible playground, for instance, is the poured-in-place surfacing that is around. So when you pull out and replace, if there is existing poured-in-place rubber, it will disturb that and be very costly to replace, to pull out an element and put in a different element.
Thank you very much.
Very briefly, through you, Mr. Moderator.
So we're gonna go on to the next person. We have a bunch of people in line for this one. Thank you, Mary. On my left.
Hi, I'm Caroline Liu, 18 Daniel Shades Road. I do have a question about the initiation of the project, and I wonder if this is school-only project or if it's for the community. That's the first question. If it's for the community, then why Parks and Recs are not involved in this, or why this is funding through the CPC, but then the school has the authority in terms of negotiating contract, find the designer, all that stuff. Can you answer that question first, please?
So before I hand it off to you, Susan, the piece that CPC has funded already was the study for it to be spent under direction of the school department. The school department put together an advisory committee to look at it and figure out what would be potential sites for it, came up with recommendations. And I'm sure that Mr. Weissmantel, who's chair of CPC, will be able to comment further on that, on how the committee came to its findings. But I do know that the CPC is only funding a part of this project because of the fact that it's going to be used pretty much solely by school children during school hours.
Okay, so I'll go on with my next questions. The new Charleswood School will have a adaptive playground as well, right? Is that the plan?
That is the plan.
And they're not that far apart. So is that the goal for every school to have such a playground?
Currently, there's only the playground at Charleswood is being designed to be an adaptive playground as well. The playground, it's not really, it gets very different when you get to the Hopkins School in terms of what those students do during a recess time.
Okay, so my last question is about the...
So we're out of time, actually, Caroline.
Sorry.
We have to move over to the next person. On my right, Holly.
Through the moderator, Holly Moran for Benson. I'm speaking on behalf of the Commission on Disability. I'm the chair. The Commission on Disability voted unanimously to support the development and construction of an adaptive playground. It aligns with our mission to promote full and equal participation for individuals with disabilities in all aspects of town life. We hope projects like this that are inclusive and that go kind of above and beyond the status quo become the standard in Hopkinton as our town grows and we're presented with new opportunities to become a more cohesive community. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Holly. On my left.
Hi, Julius Billiter, 4 Overlook Road. Looking at the design, I'm seeing well, no offense, but fairly sparse playground. And it looks to me as though a majority of the costs would be going into the pour-in-place rubber, as you described. Abe, is that correct?
Mr. Rothenberg, can you speak to that?
So the port in place is a very expensive element for the playground. But what you also see is each element is outlined. It has a fall zone. So you have to have sufficient spacing between the elements for the safety of the students. So the different colors give you a little bit of an idea of the fall zones that are with each element. For instance, the swings, you would need a lot of room, both for the swinging and for students who jump off a swing. So there are spacing requirements.
I understand that, but I'm wondering, with the pour-in-place rubber, is that the most cost-effective solution, or are there alternatives that might not be so expensive?
So the answer to that is typically that as much as things like wood chips are a lot cheaper to install, they are something where you have to maintain them a lot more often versus this is something where it's going to last longer before you have to worry about replacing. Am I correct in that?
And wood chips are not considered accessible.
Right. I was thinking more grass. Yes, I'm not sure how that is in regards to anything, but I was just wondering if alternatives had been considered that were less costly.
Thank you. On my right.
Hi, Heather Marusa, 2 Peter Porcaro Drive.
I just wanted to comment on this. I'm lucky to be a substitute teacher in town and work most of my hours at Marathon. I personally have worked with many students who would love a playground that gives them more opportunities to explore and be able to play with their peers. The playground would give children with different abilities confidence and happiness playing with their peers that they sometimes have trouble accessing on the current play areas and in their daily lives. So thank you to everyone here.
Thank you. On my left.
Ken Weissmantel, 145 Ash Street, speaking as chair of the Community Preservation Committee. First of all, the CPC does support this article, and we are supporting it. Part of our article is that we're going to contribute an additional $300,000 to the construction of this playground if this article is approved. Yes, it's an expensive playground. There's been about 30 or 40 of these that CPCs around the Commonwealth have funded. This is on the top 4 or 5 of that list, but I think there's a lot of good things in this playground for it. I think the majority of the CPC members really thought that the committee and Susan did a very thorough job, ran that through. It did a very good job of evaluating where it was. CPC might have paid for a little bit more of it if it wasn't at a school and we had more access around the clock, but we figured that our $300,000 is what we're paying for on the weekends and when school is not in session, and so that seemed like for us a fair compromise. And so anyway, CPC does support this project, and we did vote to support and go forward with $300,000.
Thank you,
And
Mr.
it's clear that I think that Marathon School needs another playground. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weismantel. On my right.
Simone Carter, 250 Wood Street. Through the moderator, I just wanted to state I think this is a lovely idea. My question, having just come back from a large public health conference and being in another place, San Antonio to be exact, and in keeping with our vision of inclusion in this town for all citizens, regardless of age and ability, et cetera, for consideration, is there a way to make this more inclusive to seniors or have water cooling stations built in, like something down the road maybe on a community level? And finally, through the moderator, I would just request that we take this vote through the clicker.
Thank you. I intended to on that last part. Susan, can you speak to if anything was looked at for other age groups in the design?
In terms of inclusivity for other age groups, we did consider the fact that a lot of times older generations would be bringing smaller generations at the same time. Some of the elements, such as a water station, those are things that could be added in a future. It's not part of this current design, but those are things that could come in the future.
Thank you very much. On my left.
Hi, Matt Kisner, 21 Curtis Road. Here is myself, I suppose. So, Ms. Kramer asked about free cash, and I think it's important to try and bring a little context on this one. So, we've heard about $300,000 from CPC, about $900,000 to $1 million from free cash. No new borrowing. So, I think important to kind of reinforce that. Where we go in the long term here, as we've noted, belt's starting to tighten a little bit, folks. We got some major expenses coming up with water and things like that. How you choose to view this one in a vacuum, I would never deign to tell you. But what I would want to suggest to you is it's going to get a little harder to do stuff like this in the years that are coming up. This is one of those moments where maybe mom and dad get to take you to Disneyland this year, and you don't really know why. Maybe they got a bonus. Maybe it was just a little cheaper. Who knows? You went to Disneyland. I'm not suggesting the adaptive playground is Disneyland, but I am suggesting to you that that sort of kismet is unlikely to be repetitive in the years to come. Try and view this one a little more holistically. It is a pretty small number, all things considered. It's much smaller than some of the things we've discussed previously, and it's going to get a lot harder to do things like this, which we would view as being wildly aligned with our community values. So I hope you bear all that in mind and you make a decision accordingly. Cheers.
Thank you. On my right.
Ed Harrow, 8 Spring Lane. I have 2 questions, though the second one will follow from the first. About how many hours a day do you expect this to be used during the school day?
Susan, can you speak to the hours of usage during the school day?
So during the school day, this is open to all the students that attend Marathon, which is upwards of 680 students. During the summer hours, we run what's called extended school year programming for students of disabilities, and there are several students that would be there during that time, again, with full access.
So this will be used for the entire duration of every school day, 5 days a week during the school year.
During the school year, that's correct.
It will never be not used during the day.
That's correct, Mr. Harrow.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm going to go to my left, but because you've already spoken, I'm going to go to Mr. Doyle next, behind you.
Thank you. Jeff Doyle, 48 Eastview Row. Seems to be some concern about it being at the school, which could limit access. Seems to be the consistent theme that's been coming up on this one. I think the big area to focus on that is that it will open up significantly more access for the students of the school who it's most age appropriate for, and it'll give them a sense of pride in the school that they're attending, so that they'll be more likely to frequent it on weekends. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Hayes.
Darlene Hayes, 1 3rd Road. I just want to make a quick comment because at first I was hesitant about it and hesitant about it being at a school. My husband hadn't ever seen Marathon School, and coming back from going out to dinner last Friday, he wanted to see it. So we drove up there. It had to be about after dinner time, before 7, and there were probably a half a dozen families, parents, and kids playing there. And that was really encouraging to see. What we did notice is there wasn't any places for the parents to sit down. So if there could be some benches for parents and grandparents would be great. But it was being used after school hours and after the school was closed.
Thank you very much. Again, on my right.
Brian Douglas, 14 Greenwood Road. It may be helpful for the audience to understand the ways in which the current playground is, I don't want to say deficient, but maybe inadequate to the needs that we're speaking of. And it may also be helpful for the audience to understand how I'll call it the adaptive playground standard is different from, I guess, the ADA standard for playgrounds. That information might be helpful for some folks in the audience.
Mr. Rothmick, are you able to speak to that?
Sure. Again, when you look at what's considered an adaptive playground, it takes away a lot of the stairs, a lot of the access to the element that somebody who may have mobility challenges would not be able to access that element the same way as their peers. So when you look at the existing playground, a lot of that are elevated elements, stairs, the way they can access it. These put the elements at ground level. So for instance, if you're in a wheelchair, you can roll onto the spinner. If you have mobility challenges, you can follow the ramp up but still get on a slide as opposed to climbing a stair. So that's just a few of the ways that it'll be different from the existing playground. I hope that's helpful.
Thank you very much. On my right again.
Mary Ellen Dugan, 27 El Prilifar Road. I'm strongly in support of this. I think the uses will be much greater than the current design, to be honest. I just had my 3- and 5-year-old grandkids for the whole school vacation week, and we visited 8 playgrounds, including all those in Hopkinton. And what was remarkable during school vacation week and when I've been to places on the weekend, they're full of families. It's not just school-age kids of a certain age. They're full of grandparents, parents, little kids. I mean, this thing is going to be way safer for kids to play on, for the wrong age kids, than any other playground we have, I think. And I think to start at a young age and to let kids know what's possible for them. And I think you'll see 8 and 9 and 10 and 11 and 12-year-old disabled kids attracted to this kind of place. It's not going to be too little for some of the things they'd like to do. So I think it'd be a very generous move for us to get started with such a thing in our town. And I think we'll be proud of it for many years to come.
Thank you. Ms. St. Pierre on my left.
Sabine St. Pierre, 1 Woody Island. I think
What's also important to understand about a typical school day is that, yes, there's recess time and kids go out at certain regular recess times, but this also allows accessibility for students that are, in, a separate area working on something that might need a sensory break. Years ago, we created a sensory hallway at Elmwood, but it was indoors, so it was kind of like the skipping thing. We had things up on the wall. So when kids needed a break during their school day, they would have to go down the hallway, but this would allow kids during the school day to have access to outside sensory output and input.
Thank you. Ms. Malloy on my right.
Beth Malloy, 190 Lumber Street. I might be the only one here to say I'm not in favor of a playground that is closed to the public 10 months out of the year, 5 days a week. If we were to put it somewhere public, and I'm sure it can be done because land can be, changed and made pliable or whatever, but, this free cash, why don't we put it towards the front door at the library so that everybody in town can also have an adaptive door? But I can't get behind you doing this after we just gave you a school and a half last year, and we built a school in 2018, put 8 more classrooms on it, and I think this is a fiscally irresponsible ask.
Thank you. Mr. Menon on my left.
Thank you. Shahidul Manan, 274 Ash Street. I strongly support the proposal for an adaptive playground. The initiative is not just about a playground, it's about inclusion, equity, and giving all our children, especially those in our special education programs, a chance to play, grow, and connect. For too long, many students with physical and developmental challenges have been sidelined during recess. An adaptive playground ensures that every child, regardless of ability, has a space to thrive. It reflects our community's values and commitment to supporting all learners. I urge everyone to support much-needed investment in our kids' well-being and development. And also, it doesn't add any dollar to our debt service right now, and it doesn't add to additional taxes. And I understand fully and appreciate we are very much fiscally diligent, how we are doing all the good work. This will add to the amenities just as we have done in the past for our dog park or for our other amenities that we added for the quality of our residents' life. So I urge you all to vote yes on this. Thank you.
Thank you. On my right.
As Timothy Boyven, 41 Pinecrest Village, is the father of someone who worked through college as a paraprofessional for special ed, I strongly support this, and I would like to ask the moderator to call for a vote, make a motion to call for a vote. Thank you.
So as I said at the beginning, you can't make a position and make a motion at the same time, but thank you, Tim. Sarah on my left.
Hi, Sarah Navin, 6 Kalala Farm Road. I'm also the president of the Hopkinton Parent Teacher Organization. I would like to make a motion to vote, please.
To call the question?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Thank
you very much. So we're going to now vote on whether the first thing we have to do is vote on ending debate. If you have a comment or question on the motion to end debate.
So I just wanted to ask the question that seems to be on a lot of people's minds. Will this be available for public use outside of school hours and on weekends during the school year?
So yes, that was the one of the answers to the questions. But now we're going to be going on to the vote. So I hope that satisfied the question. Okay, everyone, we're going to go ahead, and this does have to be a 2/3. So I'm going to do the call the question on the clickers first. We're just going to go for a 2/3 majority. So we're going to pull up the screen now, and you can go ahead and start voting. This is, again, a vote to end debate so that we can vote on the main motion. Okay, folks, we're going to close up the poll. And that is 145 to 18, 2/3 majority achieved. We are on to a motion on the main vote. We are also going to do this on our remote, so please keep it handy. So now we'll go ahead and put up the motion, and go ahead and you can vote. Okay, we're going to go ahead and close that poll now. And the motion passes 125 to 41. Thank you very much. And with that, we're going to move on, get to skip Article 25 and go straight to Article 26. Mr. Weismantel.
Ken Weismantel, 145 Ash Street, speaking as Chair of the Community Preservation Committee. I'd like to thank the hardworking members of the Community Preservation Committee and those that requested grants from us this last year. CPC funds come from a 2% property tax and an 18% this year match from the state. CPC funds can be used and spent on historic preservation, open space, recreation, community housing. We get grant requests in the fall. We hold hearings all fall and usually to the end of the year. Then we vote on what to recommend to you tonight, and that's why we are here. In this article, we have 3 motions. We have to break it into 2, but we also wanted to make sure that we highlight the center school proposal that's before you. So I'm starting off on motion, which is on page 27, and I move the motion as written in the motions document. And Josh, can you put the first slide up, please?
Thank you. And then before that, on motion 1, does Appropriations have a recommendation?
Appropriation Committee recommends approval.
Thank you. Select Board, do you have a recommendation?
The Select Board recommends approval.
Thank you. CIC, do you have a recommendation? Or sorry, I apologize. CPC, do you have a recommendation?
Yes, we recommend approval.
Thank you very much. And so now if we want to pull up the presentation for motion 1.
Okay, basically this is a list of the projects that are included in motion 1, and actually the last one on the list is going to be motion 2. But basically it's the other $300,000 for the Marathon Playground that we just voted on, water refill stations at the Ton Common, Sandy Beach, and Fruit Street Fields, a feasibility study for a splash pad, cemetery building in Mount Auburn restoration, this phase 2 of the Historic Society building on Hayden Row restoration, restoration of the floor in the Ellsworth Conference Room in the library, and a conservation restriction on Colella Farm Road. I believe this is a simple majority vote on this motion. I'd be happy to answer any questions if anyone has them on any of these items.
Thank you, Mr. Weismantel. Does anyone have any questions or comments on the first motion? Are you coming up to ask a question? No, go into a seat. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to do a voice vote on this first motion, simple majority required. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Unanimous, so carries.
Okay.
Motion number 2, Mr. Weismantel.
Okay, following along on page 29, I move the motion as written in the motions, warrant and motions document.
Thank you. And then does CPC have a recommendation?
Yes, the CPC recommends approval.
Thank you. Does Appropriations have a recommendation?
Appropriation Committee recommends approval.
And Select Board?
Select Board recommends approval.
Thank you. Go ahead, Ken, if you have something you want to say about the motion.
A real quick portion of this. This is a project that was recommended by the Open Space Committee. It's kind of the back half of a property at 89 Saddle Hill Road. This will allow, it's a small acreage, It will allow connection of several town-owned open space parcels on either side of it. It'll make a very good trail area in this. And the other thing I'd like to say, and it's not 100% with this, but we're very appreciative of having a willing seller for this. It is very hard to buy, I'll say, open space in Hopkinton, and maybe very expensive, but we did find one person who was very cooperative, and we appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Weismantel. Mr. Harrow.
Ed Harrow, 8 Spring Lane, Chair of the Open Space Preservation Commission, and we support this article.
Thank you. Seeing no one else rising, we're going to go ahead and do another voice vote on this one. So all those in favor of motion 2, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? It's unanimous and so carries. And now we're going to go ahead on to motion 3, and then Mr. Weismantel, are you going to have someone from Select Board as well join you for this?
Yes, Joe Clark will be joining me for this presentation. While we're getting set up here for the presentation, I'd also like to thank Dan McIntyre, who is not here. He's the chair of the Permanent Building Committee. He put forth a lot of this work, and Dan and members of the CPC have been working really hard on this. Years ago, I was vice chair of the Center School Reuse Committee, and I'm really happy to see this project coming forth. We are today bringing it as a separate vote within our articles, because this is the first of many votes that you're going to be asked to take on this. Today we're looking for architectural and engineering fees to get the project going, and we'll give you a presentation on this right now. So, okay, next slide. Okay, it's $600,000. It is for the design documents. This project so far has received strong support from the Select Board and CIC and the Appropriations Committee. We're going to fund this entire project without a debt exclusion and without reaching into your taxpayers' pockets anymore. This will be a CPC. Tonight is, if we're getting the strong support from town meeting, this is the first step in about a $10 million project. It's coming mostly from CPC reserves, some borrowing from CPC in future years, and some private funding. And we also, CPC is going to ask support of the next article also. But Joe, do you want to continue on?
Sure. Okay. Next slide, please. Yep, there it is. Hi, everyone. So as Ken alluded to, this is one of the more exciting projects I've seen come around town in a while. Like he said, to be able to do this without a debt exclusion, I think this project just checks a lot of boxes, almost all of them. You know, I can't think of a more historically significant building in town. You know, I think the construction was 1928, Ken, right? Is that on there? And so to be able to preserve that, overlooking our common, be downtown, provide more parking for our residents downtown, and really the goal of what it's going to be is, you know, to really work with the town, fill some spaces for town hall, you know, specifically Parks and Rec, youth and family services. So it's really going to be a community center. You know, as our town has grown over the years, you know, we have more and more kids and families, and this is really going to benefit them. More things to do downtown, at the common, at the community center. But we can't do that alone, even with loaning against future CPC funds. Next slide. So the plan is, with support tonight, is to move forward with a public and private partnership. So we are looking to, you know, with the HCA, but, you know, specifically with an RFP, move forward with a Hopkinton-based nonprofit focused on the arts. So what this will do will allow us to, you know, through CPC, I think we're going to try and get, you know, 6 million of the 10 that Ken talked about, and the HCA is going to support getting that other 4. So what this is going to do is, you know, lower our burden for the town, you know, split the cost of things moving forward, and I can't think of a better partner to do it with. You know, when I look at some of the projects in town with the HCA over the last couple of years, so I'm excited about this, and I hope everyone supports this as well. Next slide.
Okay, we're basically going to tear down the 50s and the 80s edition. Nothing, including myself, was really well done in the 50s. But basically, we're keeping the 1928 front portion. We will have about 16,000 square feet of space. Exterior, you're not going to see any changes other than maybe an ADA ramp on one side. Windows are going to be the same. The brick is going to be the same. The roof's going to be the same. It's going to look the same as it has for years on the Common. The real entrance will be in the back, where we will have ADA compliance, an elevator, et cetera, and the parking lot is in the back. We also have a proposed addition that's not part of these first phases. This would be as if our partner was able to get additional funding for, say, a dance recital hall. Next slide. So this kind of, we've got Parks and Recreation with offices and 2 activity rooms and some storage, Youth and Family Services, offices, private counseling rooms, kitchenette, storage, Center for the Arts. It's 3 arts and crafts rooms. We have a large public meeting room, which will be 1/4 of a floor, so that community meetings can be held there, and town committee meetings, whatever community meetings, restrooms, lobby, etc. Next slide. Just quickly going through it. This is the lower floor. You can see 3 large activity rooms and a bunch of offices and restrooms and a lobby. Next slide. The center one is Parks and Rec with a couple of activity rooms, which they currently really don't have today. And then the large public meeting room is in the lower left-hand portion of that. Next slide. And the 3rd floor is Youth and Family Services with also a program room up there, but those would be rooms for individual counseling, and that's certainly something that's really well needed. Next slide. So tonight we're asking for $600,000, and the source is going to be CPC funds. We'll be applying for some grants. The next phase is about a $10 million project. That'll either be next year or the year after, or maybe we'll split it between the 2 years. Future addition, we have no clue. That's a lot on funding. Basically, so basically, there's no tax impact from this tonight or in the future. Next slide.
Thank you, Mr. Weissmantel. We have to move on. Let's see if we have any questions first.
We're
before
down
we...
to 2 slides, I believe.
Let's just, we have the 5 minutes to start off. Let's see what we have for questions and see if we can address them. So stand tight.
Amy Groves, 2 College Street. May I just ask, I was surprised to see actual layouts. What we're voting on tonight that's just the money allocation, right? And we're not really actually voting on the layouts. Is that true, through the moderator?
Go ahead, Mr. Weissmantel. After this,
Yes, I can answer that. These we just kind of put together to do a pre-feasibility to figure out what we can really get there and whether it would serve the needs of those. During the design process, we're going to be probably changing those around. Once we open up some walls, maybe we'll have to change them around a little bit more. But that's kind of the stuff we expect to present during the construction phase.
Thank you. And then before we go, again on my left, Ken, can you just give us the motion itself and also the recommendation of CPC?
Oh, the motion is on page 30, and we move the motion that is in the warrant articles and motions document, and CPC does recommend it.
Thank you. And Select Board?
The Select Board recommends approval.
Appropriations?
Appropriation Committee recommends approval.
Awesome. Continuing on my left.
Julius Billiter, 4 Overlook Road. I know I've had a bunch of questions tonight, but I will say I am very excited for the idea of a community center. I did want to ask how you came to the what's the estimation of $6 million from his CPC future revenue? How did you get that estimation?
So most of that estimation is coming based on the fact that it's a 2% or 3% surcharge, or 2% we take on the surcharge for all property taxes in town. So based on that and the estimated amount where taxes are going to be assessing or changing, we're going to end up having that 2% coming out of our total estimated tax each year.
All right. And just to follow up, has it been considered whether it would be more cost effective to, if the goal is to keep the front and facade the same, but basically gut the entire building and rebuild it from the ground up, like, is it more cost effective to just do that, like actually just demolish the back and leave the front and just rebuild?
Mr. Weismantel?
The building is actually in really good shape. The windows are in pretty good shape for historic windows. We've had an expert look at that a couple of years ago. The brickwork is in great shape. The roof's in great shape. So we have a good structure. The inside, yeah, it's 1928, and it needs new stuff. It needs better insulation, et cetera.
Right. We don't need
next
asbestos.
slide, by the way.
So we'll put the next slide up, and then we're going to go over to my right, please.
Tina Burlad, 7 Daniel. If you redesign it, they will come. Where are they going to park?
Thank you. On my left.
Ann Mattina, 40 Eastview Road. Mr. Weismantel, if you could go back just a couple of slides, it was the breakdown of the cost, 10 million. You just went by it. That one right there. So CPC is HCA is going to give 4 million of the 10 million, and then another 4 million for the addition. Okay. And there's no timeline on the new addition. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. On my right.
Hi, Rebecca Johnson, 20 Burkdale Lane. I also see that Hopkins Center for the Arts is donating a significant amount of money to this. With the significant reductions and possible elimination of the NEA, how confident are we that they're going to be able to uphold that?
Mr. Weismantel, can you speak to that at all?
Sure. The Hopkinton Center of Arts, which we've partnered with on the building on Hayden Row, I am continually amazing how well they are fundraising. Kelly, as director, is just great at that particular area. She's already jumped into it, and we're going to see what we have to do. And yeah, is it a risk a little bit? But I don't think it's a big one.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Ritterbusch.
Amy Ritterbusch, 54 Grove Street. I'm speaking as a member of the Historic District Commission. I just wanted to add to what has been said by Mr. Weismantel and Mr. Clark that the reason the front part of the building cannot be torn down is that it's in a town and state recognized historic district, and it could not be demolished without permission of the Historic District Commission, and they would have to issue a certificate of appropriateness, and that would rarely be allowed. You could never say never, but that's one of the main reasons for not tearing down the front part of the building, and everyone in town seems to really like it.
Thank you, Amy. Tim.
Through the moderator, the question was asked. First of all, I support this strongly. I think it's a great idea. But the question was asked, where are they going to park? And it wasn't really answered. And so I was wondering if they could answer that.
Yeah, could we bring up the image of the property again? And then Mr. Weismantel, can you explain?
Yeah, there it is.
Thank you. That's exactly the slide I was thinking.
Yeah, basically, the parking will be behind the building, really where the 1980s gym is and part of the 50s section. So, and there is some parking in that area also, but we'll improve the drop-off area to the back lobby, et cetera. But the real functional access to the building is not going to be the front, though, I mean, the doors will remain, et cetera, but it'll really be the back entranceway, which will be the kind of the atrium built shown in the center.
Thank you. On my left.
Hi, Matt Kisner, 21 Curtis Road. There is parking. So as we think about how we're going to bring new revenue sources to town, I hope you're all as excited as I am about us trying to find a new way to leverage the asset that is the beautiful Hopkinton Town Common. If there were more parking there, it would be significantly easier for us to get to businesses downtown. And if we have a nice nonprofit art program in this building, who knows? Ceramics on the common. Maybe we're doing mimosas. I can't say. What I can say is that I think there's going to be some opportunities for us to leverage that community center, both for its intended purpose for community building, but also as we're thinking about that free cash, how are we going to bring new revenue sources and bring people and interest to town? This is how we bring people and interest to town without coming into your pocketbook.
Thank you very much. Seeing that there's no one else standing for this, we're going to go ahead and go to a vote. It's a simple majority. I'm going to go ahead and try for a voice vote on it. Can we go ahead and all those in favor signify by saying aye? Aye. Any opposed? It's unanimous, so carries. Thank you very much. And now, just a reminder, we're jumping to Article 37 as we voted at the beginning. So this is linked together. This is now the building that we've just said we want to fund. Now we're talking about how we're going to lease it. So Article 37, lease of Center School. Do we have a motion from the Select Board?
Yep, we move that the town vote to transfer care, custody, and control of the former Center School, 11 Ash Street, Assessors Map U17, Block 42, Lot 0, to the Select Board, and further authorize the Select Board to lease all or a portion of said building for a term not to exceed 99 years to a nonprofit arts and/or community organization based in the town of Hopkinton for the advancement of community and/or cultural enrichment activities, programs, and other opportunities on such terms and conditions as the Select Board deem to be in the best interest of the town, to the winner of a competitive bid selection process pursuant to Chapter 30B of the Mass General Laws.
Thank you, Joe. And do you have a recommendation for us?
The Select Board recommends approval.
Thank you. Does CIC have a recommendation?
CIC recommends approval.
Thank you. So this, I think we can kind of go based on what we had already from the last part of the conversation, unless someone has questions. Mary, on my right.
Mary Arnott, 51 Teresa Road. I'm excited about this project, but I just have a question about the leasing of portions of the building or rooms or whatever. We don't know what the final design is going to be, so I'm just hoping that when this goes to the Select Board to manage, control, whatever on the leases, that when it comes time to decide what's going in the building, how it will be used, there will be some more open discussion, even though you're leasing to this nonprofit arts and community organization. I'm hoping this isn't a final plan of what this building is going to look like, and the town won't have any more input on it.
So, Mr. Clark, can you speak to if there's more going into the design phases?
Yep, that's a great question, Mary. It's absolutely going to be open for input. This is kind of that first step needed to just move forward. A nonprofit like the HCA can't really go down the path unless they get kind of the lease to approve it for their sake. So it's kind of like step one, we have to do this. It just authorizes the Select Board to move forward with a lease. It does not sign a lease, right? We don't even have one drafted. It's just the first step in the process.
Okay. Through you, Mr. Moderator, just real quick follow on then it might not end up being another $1 for 99-year kind of lease. You're going to really look at how we're going to do this.
I think there's going to be a lot on the table.
Thank you.
Okay, so this one's going to require 2/3. I am going to try it for a voice vote just to get it banged out. So let's go ahead. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Unanimous, so carries. Thank you very much. And now, jumping back over to Article 27, amend zoning bylaw definition of veterinary clinic. Do we have a motion from the Planning Board? Mr. Benson, go ahead.
All right. Through the moderator, the planning board would like to move the motion as written in the warrant and motions, Article 27, amend zoning bylaw definition of veterinary clinic. And the planning board recommends approval.
Thank you. And then can you go ahead and just give us a brief overview of the article itself?
So since our special town meeting, people came, someone came to the zoning advisory committee and asked about being able to perform cremation or aquamation at veterinary clinics, and we looked at our bylaw, and there was nothing explicitly called out to support that at a veterinary clinic. So there was a hearing with our zoning advisory committee to discuss it. They thought it was completely in line with what a veterinary clinic would provide, the services they provide. So they moved it to the planning board for discussion. We had a public hearing, and we as a planning board think it's totally in line with the services a veterinary clinic would provide. So that's why we're here before town meeting recommending it for approval.
Thank you very much. Any comments or questions? Mr. Weismantel on my left.
Ken Weismantel, 145 Ash Street. If you cremate via the, aquamation, does that mean you're flushing it into the town sewer system? What happens to the remains? Because I think there might be some sewer regs as
Ken,
to what you can put in it.
Actually, no, you wouldn't do that. So I actually spoke to the person who had initially brought this forward before they brought it forward to zoning advisory. And it actually is that you basically cremate with an alkaline solution, and then you dehydrate, and now you have ashes, but you didn't burn. So it basically is a lower emissions version of cremation. On my left.
Julius Billiter, 4 Overlook Road. I was just wondering if it was possible for them to conduct crematorium processes that don't emit odors or visible emissions, or whether or not this wording would be restrictive to their ability to actually provide these services.
Mr. Benson?
My Google research of how this process works is it's supposed to be eco-friendly, non-toxic way to dispose of animal remains, and this is fundamentally what veterinary clinics do, and they have to abide by local zoning to not emit odor and produce smells that would be off-putting. But I'm not an expert in that process.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure that it's not overly restrictive in case I don't fully understand the process either, so I want to make sure that it's not accidentally preventing what we're intending to allow.
Thank you. Yeah, the goal is we've worked with the people who are looking to bring this in to figure out how we can ensure that they're able to do these types of methods in town. On my right.
I'm the Dewan, 48 Ash Street. Just a question, is the cremation or other services going to be for patients at the clinic only, or will it be a bit of a commercial?
So that would be entirely based on the clinic's business model and how they do it. If they open it up to other folks to come and use it and pay for their services, then I'm sure that they'll be able to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. On my left.
Beth Watson, 152 Hayden Rose Street. I have a couple questions. One, is this veterinary clinic licensed, run by a licensed vet? And is there a way to regulate whether the disposal of the cremains is happening correctly?
Yeah, so the first part of that is we don't have a clinic there doing it now because they don't have the ability to do it yet. It's just an inquiry from some folks who are looking to do business. So all of the aspects when it comes to how they're handling the remains or anything like that is going to be handled in conjunction with state authorities as well as the local Board of Health.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much. Seeing no other questions, we're going to go ahead to a vote. I am going to do this on the remotes because the state really likes us to have numbers for these zoning ones. So we'll make my life a little easier in the aftermath. So if we can go ahead and get that up, and you can go ahead and start voting. Again, this is Article 27. Okay, with that, we can go ahead and close the poll. Okay, and that passes 2/3 majority, 119 to 20. So now we're going to go on to Article 28. Amend zoning bylaw, housekeeping, amend reference. Do we have a motion from the planning board?
The planning board would like to move Article 28 as written in the motion, the warrant in motion document.
And do you have a recommendation?
The planning board recommends approval.
Thank you. And can you give us a brief overview?
So in our zoning bylaws, there's just a wrong reference number to another section of the document. So this is correcting either an oversight or a typo in our zoning bylaws.
Thank you. And seeing that no one's rising, we're going to go ahead and do another vote. Get your devices ready. And we're going to put the vote up on the screen. Article 28, go ahead and cast your vote. Numbers going up fast. We're getting good at this. Okay, and with that, we're going to go ahead and close the poll. And that is 135 to 2. It passes by 2/3 majority. And now on to Article 29, amend zoning bylaw for accessory dwelling units. Mr. Benson, do you have a motion for us?
The planning board would like to move Article 29 as written in the warrant in motions document, amend zoning bylaw for accessory dwelling units.
And your recommendation?
The planning board recommends approval.
Thank you. Go ahead and tell us about the article.
So what this is doing is at the state level, the state legislature passed a law requiring every city municipality to allow for accessory dwelling units up to 1,000 square feet. So this is bringing our local zoning bylaws in compliance with the state. Right now, people can do it anyway because the state has already set that law. So our local zoning bylaws in our zoning bylaws documentation is out of sync with the state law that was recently created. So this is bringing it into the same language as the state language.
Thank you, Mr. Benson. Do we have any questions, comments?
Just a comment, isn't it?
Can we come to the microphone and just state your name and address first, please?
Just Arlene Hayes, 1/3 Road. Isn't it 900 square feet, not 1,000?
Mr. Benson, do you have a comment on that? Or John?
It says 900. I thought it was
John Gelsich, principal planner. I don't see where it says 1,000. I see a 900.
I said 1,000. I made a mistake.
Okay.
It's 900, sorry.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Arnott?
Mary Arnott, 51 Teresa Road. Wow, is this a loaded one? I understand we need to do this, and in many ways, I think it's a great law. I have a lot of friends who have aging parents and grandparents and would love to move them to Hopkinton, but can't afford the housing. So now they can put up their own little tiny house in their backyard and have their folks with them. So that's a good thing. It also gives us an opportunity to increase affordable housing. My questions are, though, do we have to pass this right away, or can we look at it and say, is there other things we can put into the zoning about it that would provide protections for neighborhoods, subdivisions, homeowners. For example, if I decide to put a tiny house on my property as a single-family home, it says subordinate to my principal living quarters. May I rent that out? Who in the town, what departments will have authority to come out and make sure that I'm being a good landlord? Other things like, how are my taxes going to be assessed on my property? Is this assessed separately? Is it assessed as an additional 900 square feet to my home, even though it may be totally separate? I'm not necessarily against this, and I know we have to do something. I'm just wondering if there should be more detail in it. I don't have the Commonwealth law in front of me, so I don't know what flexibility it gives people or what restrictions, or should we have any restrictions? Should we have more flexibility? It's a real quandary for me. Thank you.
And Mary, I know a lot of that's going to be handled for how it is handled locally when it comes to landlord-tenant rights, all that stuff. You know, we'll see the health department, the building department, all that handle all of those safety concerns, health concerns. So with the rest of it, when it comes to should we look into more detail, that would be a good one for when we get back into this process for next year. Take a look and talk with the Zoning Advisory Committee if you think there's other things that we can look at adding to it.
Through you, Mr. Moderator, just real quickly, has the Assessor's Office and Treasurer's Office had a chance to look at how they would assess property then? Is this going to be assessed separately for taxes? If it's a separate unit, is it going to be added to the existing home, even though it may be a totally separate dwelling as allowed by the law?
Kyla, are you able to speak to that at all for your department?
I'm not aware of that, but John, anything to add? No, not at this time.
Thank you.
Thank you. On my left.
Go.
Oh. John.
John Gelsich, Principal Planner. Just to address that, so ADUs are allowed in Hopkinton already previously by special permit, so I'd assume they'd be assessed the same way that ADUs were assessed up until this point.
Thank you, John. Okay, thank you for your patience. On my left again.
Julius Billiter, 4 Overlook Road. As someone who is still having to live at home, whom despite almost being done with college, I am fully in support of this sort of additional living space. Otherwise, I would not be able to be in Hopkinton. And I just wanted some clarification on the occupancy permit controls. It was mentioned at letter J. It says that no occupancy shall take place without an occupancy permit issued by the Director of Municipal Inspections. And will that be a clear and straightforward process for those who are getting ADUs and adding them to their properties?
So it's the same process it goes through right now, which, when it comes to any kind of building that's going to be used for housing, they always want to make sure that it's actually safe for occupancy. But that's all it's going to go through. It's the same standard. You get building permits. They inspect the building that has been created, and then they issue an occupancy permit if it's met the standards.
Okay. And would it be a proposal, or I'm not entirely sure, but I'd like to recommend that any additional rulings on this be subject to town meeting debate in the future.
So any change we ever make to this bylaw, just like any bylaw going forward, will have to come before town meeting.
Excellent.
Thank you very much. Holly.
Holly Moran, 4 Benson Road, speaking on behalf of the Commission on Disability as the chair. We voted unanimously to support the increase in accessory dwelling units in this amendment. ADUs offer accessible independent living options within established neighborhoods, enabling seniors and residents with disabilities to maintain autonomy while staying close to family and community support systems. They offer dignity and sustainability, and the approach fosters inclusivity and addresses Hopkinton's pressing need for affordable and adaptable housing solutions. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to go ahead to a vote. Again, we're going on the remotes again. So we're going to bring that up, and then once it's up, you can start voting. Okay, go ahead. Okay, we're going to go ahead and close that poll. And 128 to 12, the motion passes. Thank you very much. And now we're going to go on to Article 30. Do we have a motion?
The planning board would like to move Article 30 as written in the warrant and motions document, amending zoning bylaw for floodplain district.
Thank you. And do you have a recommendation?
Yes, the planning board recommends approval.
Thank you. Would you like to speak to the article briefly?
So, in general, this is just updating our zoning overlay map of where the floodplain districts are. So this is just keeping it consistent with the reality of the land in Hopkinton.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions, comments? I see no one rising. We're going to go ahead and get a vote. Oh, Caroline, do you have a question? Before you go, going forward, if we do have any comments, questions that were coming up, get up to the microphones while they're making the motion or anything, so we'll be ready to go. Go ahead, Caroline.
A little bit quick. Caroline Lu, 18 Daniel Shays Road. Question is this expanding the flooding, defining the flooding zone, or are we in drought? I'm trying to figure out if this is flooding zone, will that impact the home insurance? What type of plan is this? Thank you.
John, are you able to speak to that?
John Gelsich.
John Gelsich, Principal Planner. So this is changes that are required based on really FEMA and MEMA required changes. So FEMA changes the flood maps, the flood insurance rate maps every so often. And when those get amended, the towns that are included within those new areas have to update their bylaws to include the new references to the maps. So that's kind of the impetus for this change. But then also when you do that, FEMA and MEMA like you to be consistent with their regulations, which also change on a certain, not a frequent basis and not on a set basis, but from time to time. So DCR really headed this one up in Massachusetts, and they reached out to a lot of communities and said, we want to make sure that your bylaws are compliant, that you are referencing the correct maps, and that everything is in line. Because if not, then the town is not eligible for the National Flood Insurance Program. So this just makes us remain eligible for that as a town, and updates all the firm maps, references, and other required language that the federal and state government have.
Thanks, John. On my left.
Julius Billiter for Overlook Road. Just a quick question for, do we have the maps available to display? Or will they be available elsewhere?
Yes, so FEMA has the maps. So the reference that you can use is, we used to list out each firm separately, but the DCR recommended that we change it to, and I'm trying to find the reference. It's like the Middlesex County Flood Insurance Rate Map dated July 8th, 2025. It's kind of this whole packet of all the firms in Middlesex County. And so that way, if that ever gets updated again, it's kind of caught in that larger booklet of maps rather than individual map panels itself.
All right, just wanted to make sure.
Thank you very much. And with that, we're going to go ahead to another clicker vote. Once it gets up on the screen, you can cast your vote. Okay, we're going to go ahead and close the poll. And that one passes 132 to 3, requiring a 2/3 majority. Thank you. And with that, we're going to go on to Article 31, amend Council on Aging bylaws. We do have a motion from the Council on Aging. Is there someone from the council making the motion, Amy, or are you making it?
We'll be making
Okay.
So Amy Beck, Director of Senior Services. Did you just read the motion?
Did you read this?
Oh, okay, sorry. We move that the town vote to amend the general bylaws of the town of Hopkinton as set forth in Article 31 of the 2025 annual town meeting warrant.
And just because I don't have the council itself making the motion, I'm going to ask for a second, just as a precaution. Thank you very much. And we don't have a recommendation, so Amy, if you want to go ahead and you folks can proceed with your presentation. Do we have slides for this one or not? Or are we just talking about it? Okay, go ahead.
I can talk about it. Sure. All right. So Jessica Fitch, Assistant Director for Senior Services. So this is really a change to our current bylaws as they fall in the charter. We haven't updated them since about the 70s. For the most part, it's really a language change to match current Massachusetts state laws and to match the titles that we use. So our current titles as listed in the town charter read Vice President, President, Treasurer. We've never used those titles, so it's a change to Chairperson, Vice Chairperson, and the removal of a Treasurer because our Council on Aging does not manage any funds. It also is, the big ticket thing is we are moving from a 7-member Council on Aging board to a 9-member Council on Aging board. We currently have a 7-member board with 2 alternates, so we're just going to take those 2 alternates and give them full board member privileges. And then lastly, it removes the ability for the Council on Aging to hire. That falls solely with the Select Board and the Town Manager. So that is what we are proposing.
Thank you. I see no one rising to the microphone, so we are going to go ahead and try for a voice vote on this one. Oh. Go ahead, Mary.
Sorry, Mary Arnott, 51 Teresa Road. Just real quickly, I see that people can run for as many terms as they want. Is there actually, term limit is 3 years. My apology, I misunderstood something. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and try a voice vote again. So all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Unanimous, so carries. On to Article 32, amend bylaw to establish revolving fund for Finance Department. Do we have a motion from the Appropriations Committee?
We do. Article 32, amend the bylaw to establish revolving fund for the Finance Department. We move the motion as printed in the warrant articles and motions document.
Thank you. And then, Mike, do you want to speak to the article at all?
Sure. So this is to create a new revolving fund for the Finance Department. Essentially, what it does, it's going to take the fee charges, demand fees, municipal lien, certificate fees, and create a new fund essentially for new finance software we're buying. So it's going to allow us to expense it to pay for these needs. What this fund does is it'll be capped at $100,000. If we generate more funds in excess of $100,000, the excess will be returned to the general fund.
Thank you. And any questions, comments? Seeing none, we're going to go ahead for another voice vote on this one. So all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? It's unanimous, so carries. And with that, I'm going to recuse myself to present the next article, so Zach will be taking over as moderator for this one.
Mr. Deegan, do you have your motion?
I do. I move that the town vote to amend the general bylaws of the town of Hopkinton as set forth in Article 33 of the 2025 annual town meeting warrant. Second, anyone?
And can we get 5 minutes on the clock for presentation?
Can we get my presentation up and Don't worry, I'll hold myself to the same standard, and I know Zach will keep me honest. Okay, so so Article 33 really came to be when I started speaking with many seniors and advocates for seniors in the community. And I was hearing people who were saying that they were having trouble getting to town meeting because of the time of night, the lack of the ability to get adequate driving there, and if they couldn't drive at night because of visual impairments, then they were pretty much out of luck to go to town meeting at all. It also, with the exception of some of the stuff tonight, it usually has taken a lot longer to get this stuff done, and going for all these multiple nights gets people to not show up for the entire meeting either. The other piece, as I looked into it further, I saw that this was one of the major blockages to childcare as something we could actually reasonably provide at town meeting, which is something that continues to be very difficult, as I am not the only parent in this room that is juggling a young child that he's made a couple squawks in the back, as some of you might have heard earlier in the evening. But there are a lot of people who were not able to make it tonight because of the fact that they didn't have that kind of access. Next slide, please. So in 2022, we looked at how could we make town meeting better. Now, we got some really great insights from this, including things like implementing electronic voting and a consent agenda. And when we did the polling, we found that, based on the stats you can see up there, we had some issues that still really needed to be addressed. That 57% of the people who did respond had school-aged children, but 77% didn't even attend the town meeting that year. And 68% of those that did attend didn't even go to all 3 of the nights that we had that year. Next slide, please. So when we looked at the reasons, the length of the meeting, because no one wants to be here for 8+ hours, the meeting time with being late on a weeknight was getting in the way, the date, because it's a busy time of year, it's tough, and the lack of childcare was obviously a big one as well because of the issues I already stated. Next slide, please. So the other 2 questions that I mentioned got pretty resounding support. This one was a little bit more on the fence, where we had 71% of respondents did say that they'd be more likely to attend or it wouldn't affect their attendance, with the remainder saying that they would be less likely to attend if it were held on a weekend rather than on a weeknight. Next slide, please. So I looked at also what are other towns doing. And I asked a bunch of my fellow clerks across the state, what are you doing if you have a Saturday town meeting for time and the number of articles you're presenting? Because obviously there's a lot of factors. So I put them in order based on population size. So the ones that are closer to the left side are going to be the towns that are a bit larger, closer to us in population. The other ones are smaller. The thing we'll notice is the green signifies the number of articles, and the orange signifies the hours of the meeting itself. So you can see some definitely still have some real sizable discussion in their meetings, but overall it's, the averages we're seeing as there are average of 47 articles and 6 hours average for a meeting. Now, if we go to the next slide, we're going to see where we fit into this. So I put Hopkinton's average as well as our annual town meeting in 2024. So our annual town meeting in 24 had a larger amount of articles. So it was a little bit more reasonable for it to be long. But the average of looking at us not including the COVID years where we did do 2 Saturday meetings show that we actually have typically an average of 48 articles per meeting for annual town meeting. And our time for an average based on the last few years is 9.8 hours. So it's almost 3 hours longer than the current meetings in almost any other town that does it on a Saturday. This is just one example of how to get it done more effectively. And I'll end on the note that when we're doing this, this is a chance to really make this more accessible for everyone in the community. Open town meeting is never going to be perfect, but we have to try to continue to make it as best as we can. Thank you very much.
All right.
Brian Johnson, 20 Birkdale. First one item that I've noticed, when I looked in the bylaws, the fact that the meeting is on the first Monday in May is actually in two sections, 47-2 and 47-3. I had proposed an amendment, which I just took back there, that would correct them both. We can bring that up in a minute. Secondly, I just have a question. Traditionally here, if we end the meeting for any reason, including, for instance, lack of quorum, we'll begin the very next day at the same start time. Obviously, if we start on a Saturday in the morning, Sunday, most people have religious services, and then we get into the work week. So I'm interested in what the town has planned if we have that problem.
So through the moderator, this actually leaves it open in the general laws for when we're doing the adjourning at the end of the night, if we need to adjourn because it's getting too late or whatever else, the moderator and the meeting will be able to vote on when we're going to meet next. It does not have to be consecutive days based on the wording of this. It only has to be based on what we've decided. So we could then say, you know what, we have a couple articles left. Let's bang it out in one of the weeknights if we think we can and there's not opposition to it during the meeting, or we can move it even to the next weekend.
Okay, so for the first part, it is in two sections. So I did bring an amendment proposal, and they can put it up on the screen.
And
So there is a motion to amend. Is there a second on the motion to amend? There's a second. So we are now discussing the motion to amend. Does anyone have any questions on the amendment? Seeing no questions on the amendment, we are going to vote on the amendment. This is a simple majority vote. Let's try it with a voice vote first. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? The amendment carries. So we are now back to debating the motion as amended, amending both section 47-2 and 47-3. On my left?
Mary Jo Ondrican, 2 College Street. I see that the article says that town elections will be the third Monday. So, for example, if the first Saturday is the 7th of May, that would put elections 9 days later, 1 work week. Does that give you sufficient time to print the ballots and to publicly post the ballots as required?
Through the moderator, yes, it does. We actually get all of that done before town meeting. A few people in here have probably already seen their ballots coming in the mail for the coming town election.
And that includes items voted on in town meeting.
So that is correct, but anything on the same warrant would already be on the warrant, and they're still within the same time frames based on the current proposal.
Am I right?
Timothy Boyven, 41 Pinecrest Village. First of all, I want to applaud Connor and his team, and especially Connor for bringing this up. This is a great idea. As someone who spent 25 years managing sports and activities and programs for various volunteer organizations, there's never a good day to do this. There just isn't. There's always a conflict, and I've seen that in the coverage, the media coverage, that what about Saturday, what about Sunday? There's just never a good day. I think this is really the best option. I've been watching the vote counts, and especially the later it gets, the lower the vote counts go. I think we're around 140 right now. I don't know if we were ever over 200, but I don't feel comfortable that 200 people in this town are making decisions for such a large town. And the more we can get to come to this meeting, the better it will be, and the more inclusive and participatory, and the more everybody will be on, not on the same page, but will at least have had a voice. And it might help, down the line as far as everybody understanding everything. So I applaud Connor, and I just want to reiterate what I said last year. I think Connor's underpaid.
On my left?
Hi, Janice Berry, 21 Tamara Lane. Connor, I hate to do this, but I am going to stand against this article. I am absolutely in support of the spirit of the article, encouraging thinking creatively to bring more people and accessible to town meeting. I am clearly in support of those who, the reasons you stated in terms of accessibility and driving at night. I want to find a way to allow that portion of our community to still have access even on an evening. But I made a decision for this as I was leaving my house tonight. I was really struck. I don't know how to vote for this one. But it was tonight when I was leaving when I realized I can do both on a Monday. I could have, if there wasn't rain, gone to my son's baseball game and come to town meeting because I wanted to do both. Saturday, I'd have to make a choice. It would either be baseball game or town meeting. On a Saturday, you have more family time, baseball games, activities, playground, that amazing playground we just voted for. You have opportunities, you've got special graduations, first communions, family time that you will not say yes to town meeting. You're going to say yes to those opportunities. You can't do both. In terms of babysitting on a Monday night, by 7 p.m., it is approaching bedtime. And I'm fortunate, the hero in the room is my husband, who's not in the room, who's at home, because we could do that, and I realize that's a privilege and an opportunity, but it allowed one of us to be here and one of us to put the children to bed. If we decided both of us had to be here, we could get a babysitter, and that babysitter would be more available and accessible on a Monday night, a high school student doing homework in my home while my kids are sleeping, as opposed to a Saturday where they also have all the commitments, opportunities, practices, and other things. I think all of the changes that you have made tonight as an example of an extremely well-run meeting will get done, we can get meetings done more efficiently. Excellent town moderating from Connor and Zach, as well as consent agenda time limits like that timer, so I will stop, and thank you.
Am I right?
Muriel Kramer, 39 North Street. I enthusiastically support this. In keeping with the conversation, I think some towns that do this and do it very successfully also work in collaboration with sports teams like the Soccer Association and the Little League, and they take a day off to further enable attendance at town meetings. So that would be something to explore. And then lastly, I know that, for example, Scouts, that would be another organization to work with, but Scouts and the National Honor Society are always looking for opportunities for volunteer hours, and it might be a way to sort of put an engine behind some child care services too.
On my left?
Hi, Julius Billiter, 4 Overlook Road. Got to say, I really love this proposal, and I don't feel nearly so bad about coming up so many times now. I really approve of these digital tallies and was curious if there was any investigation into expanding it so that people who are unable to physically attend meetings such as these could also participate in voting. I know I've been informed that this is being televised, so hi, Mom. Yeah, would it be possible to have an online participation vote as well so that those who are unable to physically come to the meetings could also participate?
So, through the moderator, thank you for the question. Unfortunately, under the current statutes of the Commonwealth, we are limited in that it recognizes the quorum of the meeting to be the people present in the hall. And we have very limited situations in which we can allow remote voting for an open town meeting. There are some allowances with representative town meetings, but with open town meeting, we're really bound by the fact that individual voters have to come in, check in person, and their votes have to be tallied.
Understood. Just changing the times.
Yeah. Thank you.
Am I right?
Matt Kisner, 21 Curtis Road.
I'm not sure what it looks like for the rest of you in town, but babysitter's about 25 to 30 an hour for me. I haven't been on a date with my wife in months, and if the first date is to this town meeting, you will not see me here again. I will be in parts in a river somewhere. So while I can appreciate that there is an opportunity for us to secure childcare at personal expense, I would highlight how disenfranchising that is, to say nothing of the fact that I don't think I should be charged to participate in elective government. Of course, you're only hearing that from me because not a single one of you, except for Connor up there, has actually ever had the opportunity to meet my wife because I'm here. She's home with the kiddos because we aren't paying $150 to be here tonight. So I would ask for a little bit of empathy from everybody on this one as we think about how to make this more accessible. The intent is not to inconvenience anyone. We have weekend plans too. The kids go to gymnastics. There are play dates. It is a complexity, but I would encourage us, as Ms. Kramer noted, to consider what some of the creative options can be. I know in my own time in high school, it was expected as a member of National Honor Society, brag, that we came and we actually supported town meeting. It was expected that the older kids, somewhere between 7 to 10, were getting watched by us as high schoolers. We were on don't die duty. There were adults with us as well, I promise. No one died. There are ways for us to get creative and for the community to lean in to make this more accessible. I'm not saying it's perfect, but I think finding a way for 140 sleepy people at 10:30 to not make all the decisions in the town, that sounds fantastic. And with my last 25 seconds here, I'll just note, how nice would it be if we didn't make poor Cornell stay open as late as they do? We could do this at a totally more reasonable time. So I just encourage you all, take a bit of a bigger view here. While this one may not personally impact you, there are a lot of people here, big and small, and in many cases much kinder than me, that you've never met because the current system completely disenfranchises them. Think of them, please.
On my left?
Sabine St. Pierre, One Woody Island. I'm honestly not quite sure yet how I'm going to vote on this one. Very good arguments on both sides. But following up on what Matt was saying about how National Honor Society students had to come, in my mind, you know, I've been here 18 years, and I will admit the first probably at least 10 or 12 of those years, I never attended a town meeting. Or I probably attended maybe once for, you know, one article that was, you know, one that everyone was disagreeing on, and I had to come support because someone told me to come, and we know that that happens a lot, right? The article happens, the vote happens, and then you have a mass exodus. So I think part of this too is just trying to also get creative on how we can encourage people to attend. You know, more education about town government and why this is so important, because I didn't really start to realize that till I started to come to these meetings now regularly for all of the nights that we're here. So just some food for thought, I guess I could say. All right, thank you.
On my left again?
Alana Cassidy, 19 Eastview Road. I'd like to move the question.
All right, the question has been called. It is a 2/3 majority.
Simple.
Get that pulled up?
Oh, 2/3, yeah.
Or why don't we try a voice vote? We are voting on ending debate and voting on the motion. All in favor of ending debate, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Debate is closed. We are now going to vote on the motion, and since we have had some talk on both sides, I think in the interest of fairness, best to use the clickers. So can we get that pulled up? And voting is open. Last call. All right, and close the vote. And the motion carries.
Thank you. Okay. On to Article 34, prohibition on use of engine compression brakes by citizens petition. We have petitioner Mr. Ed Harrow here to make presentation and make the motion to start us off.
Yes, I move the article as shown on the screen.
Sorry, they turned it down for me.
I move the article as shown on the screen. There's a subtle amendment that, for reasons which I'm not going to get into, didn't quite make it into the book. So as amended, it says on public ways within the town of Hopkinton, except for routes I-90 and I-495. And I will look for questions. I can entertain you for 10 minutes on the development of Jake brakes. It is hysterically funny. But I've been told I can't have enough time to do that.
Thanks, Ed, for your understanding. On my left.
Hi, Mike Arakalian, 228 Hayden Rose Street. I recommend this article be removed from the article here tonight. There's who's going to pay for the signs that say no Jake brake? Has a study been done by your team or whatever on how many tractor trailers Jake brakes in the center of town are coming into the town? If you have no documentation to prove how many tractor trailers you've heard, I recommend that this article be removed.
So it's a citizen petition, so the town has not done any research on the proposal itself. But Mr. Harrow, do you have any statistics that you want to bring up?
We have 13 states that have regulations about the use of Jake brakes, not necessarily prohibitions, but regulations. In Massachusetts, we have at least 13 communities that have regulations on the use of Jake brakes. So this is not something that is wildly out of the norm. It stems from an incident in Woodville on the 2nd of January when a truck rolled over, or the trailer of the truck rolled over in front of the Woodville post office. And in talking with people in Woodville, I heard complaints about noise, speed, and in the fall, it happened that I'd driven to Sutton, and in driving into Sutton, there's a big sign that says, the use of compression brakes is prohibited. In terms of sign cost, between $25 and $50 a sign, and I think I figured that we might need 12 signs.
And then, thank you. And then just to also mention that because of that, yes, the town would pay for signs if town meeting supports this article. And then on my right.
Brian Johnson, 20 Birkdale. Yes, I understand that Jake brakes are compression brakes. This article also mentions exhaust brakes and something called engine brake, which is somewhat undefined. And engine braking could be something as simple as downshifting. So is that actually enforceable the way this is written?
So this is based on bylaws in other towns. So it's common language, and the term Jake brake is a copyrighted term, so you can't use Jake brake as in your sign.
So Ed, just because the question's directly here relating to enforceability, I'm actually going to call up Chief Bennett, if I could. Yep, yeah, you can't get away with it.
Yeah, my question was to the town, and it's about the term engine brake. I am familiar with compression braking.
Yes, but so your question was on the enforceability based on the definitions itself. So because
my
the
question, yes,
police department is going to be the enforcing authority, I was going to ask Chief Bennett to tell us a little bit about that quickly.
Yes. So if there were a bylaw passed, we certainly could enforce it. We have the mechanisms in place already. We enforce other bylaws, such as the construction bylaw and plowing snow on the road. So it's just, if it were adopted, it would be easy for us to enforce.
Thank you. And before I proceed, because I was just reminded so kindly, did someone want to second the motion for Mr. Harrow? Second. Thank you. Caroline.
Yes, just a question. So
I know you, but could you still say your name and address for us, please?
yes, through the moderator. My question would be, if we want to discuss this
Can
article.
you say that one more time? I just said it a little quickly. We didn't catch it right there.
Caroline Lu, 18 Daniel Shays Road,
Thank
through
you.
the moderator. We need to clearly, I think we need to clearly define what's engine brake, jailbreak, all these terms need to be technically defined. Otherwise, it's too broad a term. We're going to forbid all vehicles to do engine brake. That's very unreasonable. Also, what area, what section of the road do you prohibit this, or you're prohibiting throughout the town, within a town boundary? It's very vague. I think such a broad prohibition is like too much. It's too authoritative. I don't know how to describe it. It's like too broad of a term, too broad of area. It's, we need more detail on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline. On my right.
Mary Arnett, 51 Teresa Road. I second just what was said by Caroline. I admit that I don't know anything about compression brakes, engine brakes, mechanical brakes, Jake brakes, or any jack brakes
I
or
would
whatever.
love to explain that.
But I just wonder, are there vehicles in our town inventory that could be affected? Are there vehicles that come through on trucks for deliveries and things? I just don't know enough as to a little more definition, I think, and a little bit more information on, other than the incident at the Woodville Post Office, why do you want to put this forward? Thank you.
Thank you.
So if I can answer that.
Yeah, Mr. Arrow, if you want to tell us what the purpose is.
This text is text that is basically copied from other towns' bylaws. So the language is, for lack of a better word, legally appropriate and legally defined sufficiently. The issue for me, the inspiration was at Woodville, and the follow-on was the complaints about noise. Jake brakes, unmuffled Jake brakes, are quite noisy. They were described by one party that I know who drives trucks as barking because they are not muffled. They can be muffled.
Thank you. On my left.
Nate Ekman, 44 Wood Street. I can tell you for sure, we live right at the bottom of the hill on Wood Street coming out of town. We get constant truck noise. It's a lot of dump trucks, of course, Karen Loam and things. My question is actually for the fire department, if I can. One of the loudest noises that we hear pretty frequently is the fire engines coming down the hill. And I certainly wouldn't want to do anything that impacts the fire department. So is this going to have any sort of negative impact?
Can I just have the chief come up and just let us know what impact this might have, if any, on the fire department?
Through the moderator, I'm not sure exactly how this would impact the fire department, but I would ask for an exemption for fire and DPW trucks.
Mr. Harrow, does this include an exemption for fire and DPW?
Under the restrictions, the very first thing it says, except in case of an emergency. A fire department vehicle was an emergency vehicle.
See, I read that as in, like, if you're having a mechanical failure, that type of emergency, it doesn't specifically say emergency vehicle.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I guess it comes down if you really think the police department's going to start ticketing you guys, Gary. On my right.
Simone Carter, 250 Wood Street. I can tell you from personal experience that it's very loud, and if you've ever heard a Jake brake, you would not forget it. It sounds like a machine gun. Secondly, I will add that I live right next door to a gun range. That does not wake me up, and it does not bother me. The trucks start at 5 a.m., and they're going back and forth to Harvey. It is impossible for me to get out of my driveway because at that time, the speed limit is not always enforced. So in most of these places that we're talking about, you wouldn't know it if you live in a neighborhood necessarily, but if you are on a road that has a hill and folks are going faster than 25 miles an hour and they're using these Jake brakes, you know it. And I, again, will just come back to live next door to the gun range. Best neighbors I ever had, never hear them. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Shepherd.
Yes, sir. Mike Shepherd, 11 Hill Street. I speak in opposition to this article. All I have to do is look at the first 5 or 6 words, except in case of emergency. I'm driving a dump truck, and I put on the Jake brake. It makes a loud noise. A cop comes up to me and says, "Hey, you're not supposed to use the Jake brakes except in case of an emergency." Well, it was an emergency. I saw a squirrel. I mean, it's an unenforceable rule. And I know there are 13 communities in our fine Commonwealth that have these rules, but I remind everybody there's over 250 communities in the state. 13 is, one of them is probably Brookline, you know, and sure, that's what they do, things like that. In the meantime, we have people trying to make a living that are driving trucks that are getting stuff delivered to your house or taking trash from your house. I suspect that we do much better here for Mr. Arrow to pick up the phone and call Harvey's, who run most of the trucks on Wood Street, and say, "Hey, have you guys cut out the use of Jake brakes, or only use them in case of emergency." We're making a law here, and the chief of police, his job is to enforce it. That's what he does. But we're making a law that's almost impossible for him to enforce. I'm pulling you over because you used a Jake brake. Well, I had an emergency, officer. That's it. I'm sorry. This is pretty silly. Overall, I think town meeting's run great, though. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I don't have the date as to when I went, but I have gone to Harvey's and talked to Harvey's.
Mr. Happ,
about
on
this.
my right.
So, Parker Happ, 3 Osceola Drive, move to question.
Okay, thank you. We're going to have a motion to end debate. We're going to get that one, because it requires 2/3. I'm going to have it up on the screen. So let's get that up there, and then once it comes up, you can vote. This is, again, motion to end debate, and then we'll move on to vote on the main question. Okay, we're going to go ahead and close that. And 111 to 9, it passes. So now we're voting on the main motion. I'm going to also just stick this to maintain on a clicker because we'd have some back and forth going. So if we can go ahead and get that one up there, and then we will vote. This one requires a simple majority. You can go ahead and open the poll. Okay, we're going to go ahead and close the poll. And the motion fails 35 to 80. And with that, we're going to get to skip another couple articles. And we're going to be on to Article 39, to amend our charter to include appointment powers by the Board of Library Trustees. Do we have a member of the Board of Library Trustees to make the motion? I see a few members coming up, so perfect. So would you like to go ahead and make the motion?
I'm Warren Carter, 250 Wood Street. I'm here as the Vice Chair of the Hopkinton Public Library Board of Trustees. We recommend that the town approve the motion as it's presented in the documents that you've received. That particular motion is filled with a lot of legalese, but it's the way we would advance our warrant to the state legislature for passage. The relevant language, the appointment language change that we're seeking to make is the Board of Library Trustees may appoint a library director in accordance with the personnel policies of the town. The Board of Library Trustees shall annually set goals for the library director and with input from the town manager. I can offer a statement from the board as well. Just as a little background, the Hopkinton Public Library Board of Trustees has put forward a warrant article to amend the current town charter language to clarify that the Board of Trustees, rather than the town manager alone, will appoint the library director in accordance with the town's human resource policies. The alignment aligns with the trustees' legal responsibilities under Massachusetts general laws, supports transparency, and is customary for public libraries.
Thank you very much. I don't see anyone jumping up to a microphone, which gives me good faith that we can just go ahead and move to a voice vote on this. Mary.
Real quick, I'm sorry, Mary Arnott for 200 Teresa Road. I'm sorry, I do not remember, how do we get our library directors appointed now or hired? Is it through the select board and the personnel department, or
No.
is it through just the town manager?
Under the current charter, all employees who are not specifically listed in the charter as having appointment or election through other means are appointed directly by the town manager. So right now, the library director, per the charter, is appointed by the town manager. It is not under the library trustees' powers right now.
Is it fair through the moderator to ask the town manager if she's in support of this or not support of this?
Ms. Lazarus, if you feel comfortable, you can, of course, share your thoughts on the article.
Thank you. I'm not opposed to the article, but I am thinking about the next charter, the 10-year charter review is starting next year and due in 2027. So I'm just wondering if, since it's a change to the structure of our government, if it's something that maybe should be considered at that time.
Sounds good. Let's consider it later. Thank you.
Okay, so with that, I'm actually going to shift us to clickers then, I suppose, because we have some potential change. So we're going to go ahead and get that up on screen. And you can go ahead and cast your votes.
Where is the... Could have answered that question.
We're almost to that finish line, folks. Okay, we're going to go ahead and close the poll. 88 to 27, the motion passes. And now we are on to the last article of the night, Article 40. Authorize fee for written demands. Do we have a motion from the Appropriation Committee?
Yes, we do. Article 40, authorize fee for written demands. We move the motion as printed in the warrant articles and motions document.
Thank you. And would you like to share any information on the article?
Essentially, this article authorizes the tax collector to charge $20 demand fee it's going from $10 to $20. This includes late tax charges for tax late payers greater than 30 days. Why is it being charged? Increased costs, but the fees also, the last time it was at $10 was 2014 was the last time it was changed, but it'll help keep our collection rate at 99%. But also, it allows us to utilize the demand fees to pay for the new budgeting software, and our goal is to keep our budget flat.
Thank you. And I see no one running to the microphone, so I'm going to ask for a voice vote on this one. All those in favor of Article 40 signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? It's unanimous and so carries. And then do I have a motion from the select board to adjourn until the town election?
The select board moves that we adjourn until town election is concluded.
Okay. And all those in favor? Opposed? And unanimous so carries. Good night. Thank you, everyone.